Confucius said, tell them and they'll forget. Show them and they may remember. Involve them and they will understand. When we come to the Genius Network or Strategic Coach, we often get inspired, maybe motivated to change, but implementing the idea is what's the most difficult part of the process. The objective today is to give you at least one idea that's worth $250,000 that you can take away. Now, when you're about to go on a trip somewhere for the very first time, what's the most important piece of information you need to know? Most people blurt out where you're going or how to get there. Nope. When using a GPS, it uses triangulation. It hones in on 3 out of about 27 to 30 satellites that orbit this Earth for that very purpose. Once it has clarity on where you are at, within 2 square feet on this globe, then you program in where you're wanting to go, and it will show you all kinds of ways to get to your desired destination. Now, Dan Sullivan and my mentors have said, Doug, you can always tell where somebody's at by where they're at. And Dan is famous for saying all progress begins by telling the truth. And I would add to yourself. Now, let's assess how you may be implementing some of the ideas that are shared in Genius Network or Strategic Coach. So I've created a scorecard of 10 of the most dynamic ideas that I've been able to implement. I want you to quantify where you are at, complete your 10 keys scorecard, turn it over, and we're going to go through this, and I would like you to do this by tomorrow. So here's an overview of how to fill out your 10 keys scorecard. On this screen right here, you'll see that there are 10 principles listed here on the left. And then on a scale of 1 to 10, you will score yourself across horizontally, poor, fair, good, better, best. And then up here at the top, you'll put a score of where you are right now and then where you're wanting to be right there. And at the end, you will total your score. So let's go through and get some ideas on how to do this. Key number 1 is to identify and focus on the profile of your ideal client. You all know the 80-20 rule, where most of us, when we started, 80% of our revenue was derived from the top 20% of our clients. We've been taught to flip that, to be able to ask questions about what are the attributes of my ideal client and what makes my ideal client tick. What do you need to do to understand, to better deliver to your ideal clients and improve your relationships with your ideal clients? So if you were going across this scorecard right here, on that very top portion, you would read through all of these and figure out what your score is. If you feel desperate, and you'll work with anybody who will fog a mirror, that's a 1 or a 2, okay? If you know the attributes of your ideal client, but you don't know how to reach or market to them, that would be a score of 3 or 4. If you have adequate clients, but you're not sure how to improve relationships, that would be maybe a 5 or a 6 score. You know the profile of your ideal client, but you're still spending only 20% of your time with those top 80%. But what about if you devoted 80% of your time with the top 80% of your clients? That would be a 10, okay? Key number 2 is move your professional objectives to the highest value level. Dan Sullivan recommended years ago reading the book The Experience Economy. And in that book, the authors use an example of coffee. In its pure commodity form, coffee, beans, it's only worth 2 cents a cup. When it moves into a unique product, a cup of coffee, it goes up in 10 times in price. But when that cup of coffee enters a convenience sector at a restaurant or a 7-Eleven, it goes up about 4 times greater. But Starbucks made their success by creating a unique experience, okay? Now, there's one level higher that people value even more, and that is a meaningful transformation. So on the number 10 for that second key, you have the highest compensation with the least competition by providing a meaningful transformation. Key number 3, provide greater clarity, balance, focus, and confidence for your clients. Dan Sullivan has taught us that there's constant global change going on in the scientific, technological, economic, political, social, and cultural arenas. People have this loss of context, individuals and consumers. He told us the formula to be able to ask ourselves, why are these people feeling confused and isolated and powerless? How can we give them better clarity, confidence, and capability? And you do that by mustering up as much LRC, leadership, relationship, and creativity. You show people the darkness of the night. If they keep living life the way they're living it, and then you show them the brightness of their future, the day, if they will change their ways and follow your strategies and concepts. When you provide clarity for people, they will have unlimited energy. When you give them balance, that takes the wobble out of their life. That increases the velocity in which they achieve their destination. When you give them focus on what matters most, that increases the accuracy in which they'll achieve their goals. And with those three, you'll have much greater confidence. Confidence attracts opportunities. Lack of confidence repels opportunities. So mark down where you're at on that score tonight when you do this exercise. Key number 4, operate within your unique ability. This is something Dan has trademarked. Delegate everything else. When I started in Strategic Coach and took my Colby score, I began to realize in my activity inventory, there were a lot of things I was doing I was incompetent at. I had to delegate that. Then delegate what I was even competent. What was really hard is delegating what I was excellent at. But when I started focusing on what I was superior at, 80% of a focus day is doing the 3 things I'm superior at. And that's what gives you energy and passion. As Dan teaches, I come up with the ideas. I'm a quick start. My project manager makes the ideas real. They do the fact-finding and implementation, and my process managers make them recur like a well-oiled machine. Key number 5, find your niche and develop a unique system based on predictability. Now, you're only going to get what your system will deliver. Do you know that most prospecting and marketing systems only deliver about 6% of the results they could otherwise achieve? Marshall Thurber, who's a systems genius, stated that 94% of all failures are a result of the system or a lack of a system. Now, I use SYSTEM as an acronym that stands for Save Yourself Time, Energy, and Money. And Dan taught us to put on one 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and laminate it, our unique process that we take people through. When I started doing this simplified in one form what our clients would go through, and they knew what came next. And then Dr. Edwards Deming taught that 85% of any successful result you want in life is determined in the first 15% of the process. So you make sure you get that down right, and filling out a scorecard is one way to do that. Key number 6, create more opportunities than you have capability. Dan calls that big old little C, and then you filter which opportunities you're going to seize. So in the book Blue Ocean Strategy, we learned how to create uncontested market space and make your competition irrelevant. Have a blue ocean instead of the red ocean of tearing down your competition trying to be the tallest building in town. Dan taught us to focus on our customers' DOS, dangers, opportunities, and strengths, and to create a value creation monopoly so that people can only get from you what you provide better than anybody else they could go to. Dan taught that many people go through life with more capability than opportunity. We want to flip that and make sure we have more opportunities than you have capability. That's a nice problem, and it's easy to solve. I wrote an article for Harvard Business Review about how to prioritize your opportunities, and I cited Dan. It went to the front page of HBR in 48 hours. This is serious stuff. And so you filter opportunities based on utilizing ability, referability, impact, enhancement, and appreciation. Key number 7, balance your life. Prioritize by using a freedom time system. If you know Dan's entrepreneurial time system of free days, focus days, and buffer days, what a game changer that has been for me, as I'm sure it has for you. So I like to have 120 to 140 days a year earning, 60 to 105 days a year learning, and then 140 to 160 days a year recreating. See? Recreating is recreating and downloading, getting away and working on the business instead of in the business. Key number 8, use professional coaches and mentors, form strategic alliances. These are some of my favorite. We have the DOS. I have used this in my business to solve the dangers for my clients financially and showing them the best vehicles and opportunities. A Whole New Mind by Daniel Pink. You want to teach high concepts coupled with high touch. Folks, you know that coaches, mentors, and alliances are an investment, not a cost. Key number 9, use the best tools. Use a scorecard, strategic coach tools. Key number 10, redefine your business every 7 years. You know, the business enterprise has only 2 functions, marketing and innovation. All the rest are costs. So, what I want to challenge you all to do is to create strategic byproducts, be in motion, add value. Dan Sullivan says, rather than trying to be the smartest person in the room, I just like to be in a room where everybody's trying to get smarter. Now, that's by sharing. So, add up your score, and then how many of you would like to raise your score? Yeah, I think we all would like to do that. There's more than one poster child of implementation. Join the family. It's you.
What do we need to know about you and kind of what you do and how you do it?
Well, that's a good question. So, so we talked a lot about engineering. So there are other. I would consider myself a dreamer more than anything else. So dreamers often are unpredictable. Yeah. They float around. Yeah. So one would think that from all the stuff you read, I'm left brain. Go straight to the fact engineer. That's not the case.
Yeah. Well, okay. So you're an inventor. You actually make things, and you have one of the questions here is, what does the process look like for you? Because you basically invent stuff, and then so what do you invent, and how do you go about it? And then we'll talk about what you have done and what you're doing, because it's pretty fascinating.
Very glad to talk about it because I'm still figuring out how all these things work. So ever since when I was a kid, I would get into trouble for daydreaming. I would go off in places, think about if we could do this, how would life be for everybody around us?
Right.
And even for me at that point as well. So my process of invention is simply listening.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video, and I want to let you know that I have a new book that's come out, and if you'd like to get it absolutely free, there's a link below in the description, or you can wait till the end of this video, or you can simply go to joesfreebook.com and you can get a copy there.
So let's say I hold 5 patents in traffic engineering, then I stop patenting stuff because it's a surefire prescription for people stealing your ideas and go on calling it their own. And
right.
I don't want to spend my life in lawsuits. So I just keep on inventing to the next level. So the process of invention for me is that I go away and I ponder about things. Let's say I want to make a robot that synchronizes traffic lights. Automatically you plug it in, you get green light after green light. Or I want to build a business system that is going to take any company and that's going to expand or self-multiply that company. So I go away and I start thinking about it. I give myself to that problem. Then I listen, I look, and I try to hear. Because I believe, in my worldview, I believe all the answers are there. They're out there. There is nothing new. You don't invent anything, you discover things.
Gotcha.
Like Isaac Newton, the apple falls on his head, and he's like, oh my God, there is gravity. So gravity existed before Newton. Newton just thought through, heard, saw, and figured out there is a law of gravity. And for me, the way some of my inventions come is that because I believe in a supreme being, we can call God, universe, whatever you want. So, and my worldview is that this supreme being wants us to have the best life that we can have. And people that are crazy, dreamers like me, I tap into and I hear all my algorithms. Some of them are very complicated algorithms. They just kind of download into my mind. So I get it. It's not, and I look around and say, oh my God, where did that come from? Because it never existed before. And I believe that this tapping into this voice, this phenomenon, and downloading that for the betterment of the people. Because everything that I've invented, I've tried building businesses that really didn't add value but would have made money. They all flunked. But every time I listened and I saw, okay, this is going to create value, and I would get this download. There are distinct moments in time. Like I was standing in a apartment out on the balcony in Costa Rica looking at the Green Mountains, and 7 minute of pure download. 7 minute pure. I don't know where it came from. Well, my worldview now, I believe it came from God, and it was a pattern, a blueprint for a project that we've been working on 3 years. They're launching it this December, 2016. So so that's my process of intervention. I wish I could, transfer this.
No, here's what I'd like to say for people that are saying, okay, well, I don't get downloads. I don't know what he's talking about. How do you tap into something like that? It sounds like an interesting concept. Some people will totally relate to it, and others might, well, how do you do that? I mean, how do you tap into that? So do you have any suggestions?
Absolutely. I mean, read upon, so in my again, worldview, the greatest inventor of our times or ever has been is Nikola Tesla. Tesla would go into the forest, and he, in his mind, would get the picture of the motor running, and he could picture and he could see, he could feel the carbon brushes even wearing out as the motor ran. So I believe that's the way. And you talk about Steve Jobs. It's all happens in the mind. I mean, Steve was. He talks about a trip to India where from there his mind completely changed, and then he came back a completely different man. So I believe it's tapping into something that is greater than ourselves is where it comes from. And it doesn't matter. I mean, law of gravity exists. Yeah. I can stand up here and say, hey, I don't believe in law of gravity, and just jump off the window here, and then I'll find out that it's an immutable law. It exists. So now my inventions are coming faster because I know this. I pull myself away, and I spend time away from people in solitude and meditating, maybe thinking, pondering about a problem. And sure enough, these pieces come from me. I'm talking about heavy mathematical formulas. I'm not talking about, okay, let's build this nice picture. I'm talking about AI robotics that are run by algorithms. So, and I'm not trying to make it into a
you're not trying to overly complicate it.
So now on this particular topic of using humor in a particular area, here's my take on it. You can break down a lot of walls with humor.
Yes.
Where does it cross the line? Where, because a lot of people that do like blank books and stuff, they'll do presidents, politicians. There's one on each side. I'm this party, I'm that party.
Right.
And so, what advice would you give for, testing your marketing ideas? Because did you, when you first started this, was it successful right out of the gate, or did you have to go through it? What was it? Yeah,
it took off right away.
That's good. And did it take off because of what was the first thing?
I think it was because I had such clarity on who my market was and where they go. And I think it was such a shocker to go into a clothing store and see at the checkout a book, and it does grab your attention. Okay, well, what does everything men know about women? And so it was a point of purchase, and it did take off right away because women loved it and bought them by a lot.
Yeah.
And I also kept the price expensive. When it first came out, inexpensive. When it first came out,
I was like, okay.
No, inexpensive. So when it first came out, the retail price was $2.95. Right. That's under that. You can buy a card. I mean, nowadays cards can be $6, and I think the latest price on these are $5.99.
Yeah,
that's still the price of a card.
Yeah.
If you go into a nice store, you can. There's cards you can buy. Well, would you rather give them a card or something like this? So the price is inexpensive. And I do remember in the early '90s when I called and one of the stores, the buyer said to me, "But we're going through a recession." Or whatever it was. And I said, oh, that's okay. They still want to buy something. And people still want to buy people gifts, but they're going to buy more in gifts that are not as expensive. And she said, oh yeah, you're right. And she continued to buy a whole bunch.
Wow.
So I didn't argue with her. I agreed with her. Yeah, because in the early 90s, I think we were. I don't even know. I was so busy, selling because that's what I had fun doing that I didn't even know what was really going on. I just, when someone said to me, hey, that's going on. Okay, it is, but people still want to buy gifts.
I love it. Well, here's the thing, and I'm thinking of this right off the cuff. So we have this thing in Genius Network where my members, if they do business with each other, and I announced I'd like to start doing this, and it just got the whole audience just applauded this idea. And I said, if you come up with an idea that you learn from us here, or you exchange money with each other, 1% on each side on our system goes to Genius Recovery.
Wow.
And we've just gotten a couple of big checks for
Nice.
one for $10,000
Wow.
and another one for $1,000 in the last week for Genius Recovery because of people. They even went back and retroactively paid because you'd have to do a lot in order to have
Right.
1%
Sure.
of $10,000. It's like $1 million,
Yes.
right? But I have members that have made a lot of money, and for something like this, if you end up taking an idea that you've learned here today and it works, send 1% to Genius Recovery. Or do you have a foundation or charity or something you would like, or how do people follow you? I mean, I like to give out your contact info because you have other books too. You don't just have blank books. You've
Right.
actually
Although that is this is what I'm most famous for, but I do have books with writing in them.
exactly.
And you mentioned earlier that people can spend their life writing a book with words in it and hardly sell anything.
Exactly.
So it tells you what the marketplace wanted. But my website is just, this one, cindycashman.com. There's CASHMAN. There's stuff on there.
Is that really your name?
It's my maiden name. It's my real name.
Cash.
Yeah, Cindy, Cindy, and then Cash Man. It is my real name.
I'm going to go.
And I found out that I'm related to Nellie Cashman, the Angel of Tombstone, from the 1880s.
I'm just going to get up in the middle of this video and just show
Yes.
people a couple of things that
As I'm yelling in the background here, hopefully, I know we're not even mic'd up here, so I apologize in advance for not having we're doing this off the cuff, so be happy. But here's one thing I do with books. So this is Life Gives to the Giver, and I give this book away for free at joesfreebook.com.
Right.
And what a lot of people that give away free books do is they give away a crappy book, then they put people into an upsell funnel that just hammers them and tries to sell them supposedly the good stuff, where I just give people a really good book. And then they sign up on my email, and I send out an email at least 3 times a week that's just really value packed. And then the bottom part is, P.S. here's, 3 or 4 ways that we can help you. And not here's what we're going to sell you, but how we can help you, right? And people, sometimes will join Genius Sellers. Sometimes they'll buy my other books. But that's a good idea on how to use a book as a lead generator. Now, this is my newest book, which is What's in It for Them. And this is a book on how to win the right friends and influence the right people. And so you're, from as much as I've known you, you follow this philosophy of what's in it for them. You think about what does the person want, not what do I want. And I honestly think that's where the success comes from. Because I think people that fail is like, I got something to sell. I think everyone needs it. People should just buy it. And there's like this sense of entitlement, not this sense of enrollment. And so you have done a really good job of enrolling people into your business. Now, for Cherie, how do you think you're going to develop and use something like this? Because I don't know how quickly I'm going to put this video out. I might just do it right away and see how it evolves.
Sure.
But I wanted to have this conversation for people. I mean, what's really happening here is we're just brainstorming, and I thought it'd be really good just to tell this story. I bet a lot of people out there would get a ton of value out of it. This would inspire you to think of some creative seed that you have that has not yet been watered and nurtured. Cindy has been enormously successful, and you're a very successful surgeon, and you help a lot of people. So what's going through your head right now about how you could see using this?
So I'm, first of all, fascinated with the book concept, and because it's just so simple, as you said, but it reaches so many people in a different way. So what I got from just your conversation is, really thinking about the audience and how you can get to the people that you're trying to target. And first of all, identify solutions, but ideas that come to my head right now. This is a book that catches someone's attention. You can place it in strategic places. Like you said, yours is clothing stores. Where are the places that the market that I'm trying to target would go and buy gifts for their friends, etc. Sounds like the target market is the woman. So really understanding that avatar as much as I can. and then being able to test the title. And one thing that came in my head right now is, why don't test it on the people already, on my clients who already done it with us?
Yes.
And just ask them,
Yes.
these are the titles I'm thinking about, and have them vote on it and just test it that way. So those are my takeaways just from your conversation.
Yeah, I've always loved the line in the marketing world. It's called, in the real world, it's called failure. In the marketing world, it's called testing. And, you know, because you're going to. Things aren't going to work, and so you don't know what works until you put it out there. So that is there anything else I should have asked you? Something we haven't covered that we should? I mean, I know there's a million things.
You know, somebody said to me, have you ever figured out the true value of a book? You know, all the doors that it's opened. You know, it opens a lot of doors. It's a nice topic to get people laughing. And it's true what Joe said earlier. Laughter is like the best. If you can get people laughing. And it was so funny because I mentioned I did some other books, and one of them I was doing radio interviews on a humor book. It's been discontinued now. But the radio guy, KABC out of LA, and I had never done radio interviews, and I don't really listen to much because I love being in silence. And the guy said, you're laughing at your own jokes. And I said, I know, I'm laughing because I can't believe you're not laughing. And he said, the phone started ringing off the hook. You know, they wanted me back on.
Oh, that's
but
great.
It was really funny because I'm laughing like, how can you not be laughing? How can you not think this isn't funny, you know?
Right.
But it is a profound message in its simplest form. But it's also a way that people can use it to start a conversation. And I love what you said about active listening, because active listening is so important in any relationship.
You know, I mean, I think it'd be a good way to actually meet someone, and you just put your phone number and contact info. It could work really well for men and women alike.
Yeah.
So,
Would you be willing to accept like a suggestion?
Oh, sure.
Would you be willing to like record an audiobook?
You know, actually, there is a Kindle version of this.
Is there really?
Yeah, there is a
Oh
Kindle
my God.
version. Yes, there is a Kindle version. And years ago, when the VHS was in, somebody had come up with something with the VHS, and the guy is just saying, okay, tell me your problem, and just pretend he's writing down. I mean, it was really funny. It was the video therapist or something like that. I was going to do everything women know about men, and I was going to make it real thick and super small writing, because I think, don't you agree, we do kind of know a lot more about men than what men know about us?
Yes.
I think a lot of at least that we think we do.
You think you do.
Yeah, we think
I'm just going to be laughing and go along with it. Let you guys think whatever you want.
So, but I've been mostly semi-retired, but I love having fun. I love traveling and exploring, and I do what I'm most proud of is I love listening, trusting, and acting on my intuition. So, and some intuitive coaching. That's what I like the most right now.
Awesome.
For everyone who's excited for the possibilities, we're going to get a little bit of work done today. So, important first steps. Step number one, first thing that we need to do is we need to confirm your offer. What is it that you're selling on the back of your quiz? And the reason for that is one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they create a quiz funnel like this is they create a quiz that is a staircase that leads to nowhere. This is not about creating one of those BuzzFeed time-wasting quiz like what Disney character is your dog. It's not one of these quizzes. Those quizzes are great for getting people to take it, but they're not great for creating buyers. They're great for getting clicks, not customers. So it's important to have in mind the offer. We got to begin with the end in mind. What is it that you think you're going to be selling on the back of this? Are you driving people to a discovery call? Are you driving people to a webinar? Are you taking people to one of your events? Are you taking people to a physical product that you sell? Have that in your mind, because that's going to determine the type of quiz that we build. That's the first step. Second step is to confirm your big idea or the hook behind your quiz. And that's where we're actually going to start. We're going to start with your quiz hook, finding your big idea. Now, for those of you who were on the 10-minute talk that I did last month, who remembers the 3 quiz frameworks that we talked about? Remember, that was my assignment for you. I said, if you choose to accept it, your goal between that talk and our time here today was to think about the 3 quiz frameworks and which one makes the most sense for you. So who remembers what they are? Post it in the comments. I'm just curious. Denise says number 1 was type. Number 2 was killer. And number 3 was score. Denise, you are the winner of the day.
Great notes. Congratulations. Awesome. And for those of you who maybe either forgot about them or are hearing them for the first time, we're going to cover them one by one. So thank you, Denise, for that. Your hook, your big idea. Your quiz starts with the big idea. It all starts with the thing that attracts people to take your quiz in the first place. And when it comes to creating a quiz funnel, it is all about the hook. It's all about that thing that's going to get people to start the process. Much like when you write a book, it's all about that juicy title. It's all about that juicy cover that gets people to actually pick up the book when they're browsing at Barnes & Noble and give it a shot. So it's all about the hook. Now, I'm going to go through a few examples of quizzes here to kind of get your brain firing and thinking about what your quiz might look like. And then we're going to go into the process for figuring out your hook. So this is an example. This is Peter Johnston. He and his partner run a business called Her Business. He helps women in small business grow their business and get more of what they want in life. And he wanted to create a quiz that was a lead gen for membership waitlist, for a waitlist for a membership that he was building. And so he created something called What's Your Networking Personality? This is Alexis Fedor. She helps artists, and she wanted to get more traffic to a webinar that she had created that was doing well, but she wanted more eyeballs on that webinar. So we decided to put a quiz on the front of that webinar, offering her online course. And she created something called the Art Marketing Score. This is Dr. Will Haas. He's a fertility expert. He's a physician, and he wanted to create a quiz to his online course, which is for a 14-day fertility cleanse for women trying to conceive and to optimize their natural fertility potential. So we created a quiz. What's the number one food harming your fertility? Take this quiz to find out now. So these are examples of hooks for quizzes that have performed well and are performing well in the wild. Question you might be asking yourself is, how do you come up with your hook? Well, it all starts with this model that I want to walk you through, and it looks like this. It's called the quiz creation flow. Now, before we go any further, I want to let you know that you guys have access to a special set of resources that we have curated for you and you only. I'm going to ask that you keep this within the group. You don't share this on the outside, because normally these are part of our paid programs. And I just want to gift this to you. And to keep things super simple and straightforward, we have made a special Dropbox link available. And so, Chris, if you're able to post that Dropbox link inside the chat, that would be awesome. And then I'm going to walk you through what that looks like, and we can go from there. And if we're not able to post that link, let's see, I'm not seeing it. Let me see, Chris, you able to either text me or unmute? And Eunice, we may need to unmute or give Chris the ability to post it, or Elliot, someone on my team, in chat. I'm not seeing it. Oh, wait, maybe I'm seeing it. Let's see, guys.
Hey, Ryan, it's Elliot. I'm unmuted. I'm about to post to that right now.
Got it. Okay, awesome. Thank you. In the meantime, I'll pull it up so you can see what you're going to be looking at. All right, so if we go to my screen here, you're going to see that there's a Dropbox link. It's a folder. Don't look ahead. Don't jump ahead. There's a couple resources that are going to be here. It might look like this when you fire it up, when you open it up, that has some cool stuff that we're making available to you. You should have it in just a second. It's in the content channel in Slack. If you just scroll up just a little bit. I just don't have the ability to type into chat right now. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a look at this model right here, which is the quiz creation flow. And you'll be able to download this at your leisure. If we go back to my slides here, and I'll get an alert as soon as this is available. It should be momentarily. I'm not sure what the delay is, but we'll get it going as soon as possible. All right, so this quiz creation flow. You can see here the model for creating a quiz. Every quiz follows this format that looks like this: attract, diagnose, prescribe. And you can further break down that format as follows: welcome, questions, and then a series of steps where we give people an outcome of their quiz so that we can sell the next step in our funnel, whether it's getting people to buy your products, watch your webinar, or what have you. Now, in marketing terms, what this means is this: we've got a hook that leads to an offer connected by a bridge. Now, the important thing to note with this is that you do not build your quiz in the same order that people take your quiz. Instead, you begin with the end in mind. You've got to get clear first on your offer. 1 second. I'm going to see if I can, bear with me 1 second. I'm going to see if I can get this. There we go. All right. The Dropbox link is now officially inside the chat. So the document that we're looking at right here, if you want to pull it up, I'm going to go back to it here. You go into Dropbox and you're going to see number 4, QFBC quiz creation flow. You may want to pull that up. You may want to download it to have it at your disposal. You can just click this download button right here, direct download, pull it up, and then you'll have it right there in your browser. So you can look along with me. All right, great. So it's a Dropbox link. It's inside the chat. You'll see it, and we'll post it again if folks can't find it. So go back to my slides here. We want to begin with the end in mind. We begin with the offer first, and then we move from the offer to the hook. And then from there, we connect the offer and the hook with the bridge. Now, I'll show you some examples of this in action before we go through the actual process of coming up with your hook. So, a few examples. This is Michael Hyatt's quiz, and in getting an echo. This is Michael Hyatt's quiz, and in his case, Michael is driving people to a sales webinar. He wanted to take people to a sales webinar to sell his multi-$100 product, which is a platform university offer. So the offer that we're driving people to is to sign up for the webinar, created a quiz called the platform assessment to take people there. Here's another example. This is Mastin Kip. Mastin wanted to sell people copies of his book. We used a quiz, what's your nervous system survival type, to take people to his book offer. Here's another example. This is Morgan Gist McDonald. She wanted to drive people to a discovery call, to a sales call. And we used a quiz to drive people to a call to action to get people to do a discovery call with a member of her team. She helps authors publish their book. And we created a quiz called, what is your publishing path? What publishing path is right for you? This is Dev Basu's digital marketing agency called Powered by Search. We want to drive people to a pre-recorded webinar that is for his digital marketing agency, created something called the Digital Readiness Assessment to drive people there. We already talked about Amy Porterfield. Amy wanted to drive people to her Digital Course Academy program. In this case here, the program's not available for sale at the moment. So what she does is she uses the quiz to drive people to the wait list for her offer. So that way, the next time that she launches, she has a massive list of people who are ready and excited to buy. All right, now let's talk about your quiz hook, this piece right here. There are 2 pieces to every quiz hook, and they are as follows. The first is what we call your quiz topic. Now, the quiz topic is going to be unique to you. It's going to be unique to your business, your market, and your quiz. It could be digital marketing. It could be metabolism. It could be your golf swing. It could be guitar playing. It could be blood sugar. It could be online courses. It could be a quiz about money. That quiz topic is going to be unique to you. Now, the second part of your quiz hook is what we call the quiz framework. Now, this is where Denise's answer comes into play. There are only 3 possible quiz frameworks to choose from, and hopefully you've given some thought as to what that might be for your business. And they are, once again, a type quiz, a killer quiz, or a score quiz. Now, I'm going to recap what each of these are, and I'm going to encourage you as I go through them to think about which one of these 3 types of quizzes makes the most sense for you and your business, beginning with the type framework. So a type framework is one where you're putting people into one of several buckets based on their type. Now, there's an interesting element of psychology behind why each of these frameworks works so well. With the type framework, we have to go to the research of 2 researchers known by the names of Berlin and Kay. And they postulated this interesting idea that our brains make sense of the world. We are inclined to make sense of the world by putting things into different groupings and categories. In fact, we do this as children, right? As a young child, what do? You learn about animals, and then you learn that everything's an animal. And then you learn that there are dogs and there are cats. And then you're able to put dogs in your mental dog bucket, cats in your mental cat bucket. And then as your brain develops further, you learn that there's the difference between a lion and a cheetah and a tiger. And you can put animals into the different sub buckets that you've created in your mind. It's our universal inclination to categorize things even categorize ourselves. In fact, this is so hardwired in our psychology that even when something is presented in the form of an infinite spectrum like color, color exists on a spectrum. The division in color is an artificial construct that we use to help make sense of that rainbow. Our brain will naturally put these colors into red, green, purple, and pink. And we do this because our brain likes the certainty of this. So when we tap into this psychology, we see things like the MBTI personality quiz, the Kolbe assessment, Sally Hogshead's How to Fascinate profile, Roger Hamilton's Wealth Dynamics profile, the Enneagram, and more. Examples of this in a marketing context would be like, for example, the Proactive Skin Type Quiz. Years ago, did work with the company Proactive to create something called the Skin Type Quiz to help people identify what skincare product is right for you based on your skin type, following the same model that we looked at a moment ago: attract, diagnose, prescribe. The Weight Loss Type Quiz. Here's Dr. Steve Siskin. We've created 4 different weight loss types based on your hormonal balance, your hormonal makeup. There are 4 weight loss types: type A, type I, type G, type C, and they all correspond to the weight loss hormone that is most likely most out of balance in your body based on a little bit of information. Is it ghrelin, cortisol, adiponectin, insulin? What hormone is most out of balance? That determines what your weight loss type is, and based on that information indicates what your protocol should be for actually losing weight. It impacts what foods you should eat, what exercises you should be performing, and the supplementation you should be taking to help with your weight loss. Attract, diagnose, prescribe. That's the first type, the type framework. Second framework is what we call a killer framework. Killer framework taps into the psychology that the fear of loss is more powerful than the promise of gain. Here's an example here of that control headline that as marketers we're all familiar with. Do you make these mistakes in English? This is a control headline that ran for more than 50 years. And what you notice about this headline is it doesn't say how to speak better or how to speak more eloquently. It's, do you make these mistakes in English? And this is for a correspondence course to learn how to speak better English. This example here that we looked at a moment ago, the Golf Swing Killers quiz. This is one where you're identifying the mistake someone is making in their life that's holding them back from achieving the transformation that you provide in your business, in your product, or in your service. Attract, diagnose, prescribe. Next, Charlie Wallace. Are you struggling to play the guitar? Could you be making one of these several mistakes in your guitar playing, what we call progress killers? Attract, diagnose, and prescribe. The third framework is what we call a score framework. Now, this one here taps into a different type of psychology, taps into social comparison theory. Now, if you look at this right here, I think many of us on this call are old enough to remember what we're looking at here. Remember this thing here? Does that bring back some memories? I don't know about you. Every time I look at one of these things, it brings back memories for me when I was a kiddo, having to bring this thing home, sweating bullets. By the way, out of curiosity, I'm always curious with this group. Where are my straight A students? Raise your hand if you were like a straight A student in college, in growing up. Yeah, okay. Where are my C students? Raise their hand. Yeah. I love it. Every time I do this, it's the same thing. The straight A students, you guys just, like raising your hand, all modest, like don't want to show off, whatever. And then the C students are like giving me like the double middle finger in the camera. They're like, yeah, I was a C student. What have you? So you can take your guess if you think I was a C student or an A student. But I love it because it evokes so much emotion. Seeing something like this. And it's a label. Look at this. It's a label that we carry with us into adulthood, right? We remember the fact that we were an A student or a C student or a B student or a D student or whatever. It's a label that we carry with us into adulthood. And it underscores why this is so powerful. It taps into social comparison theory. That yet another way that our brain makes sense of the world is that we're constantly comparing ourselves to both ourselves and to our peers. We exist in a relative basis. There's no such thing as an absolute. We want to know how we're doing. Are we making more money than that guy over there? How come that she's lost more weight than me? How is it that he's further ahead in his career than I am? We're constantly comparing ourselves. It's just the way that we're hardwired. And so when you use a score-based quiz, you can help people measure where they are in a spectrum, where they are on a journey relative to either where they should be or relative to their peers. So as I mentioned, social comparison theory, first postulated by Leon Festinger. You can see here the fact that we as individuals have a drive to gain accurate self-evaluations. We want to know where we stand in the world. What's our place? Are we in the top 1%, the top 10%, top 50%? We have this drive to know where we stand. And you can use this to create a score-based framework to help people evaluate where they are on a journey of progress, create a gap between where they are and where they want to be, and then introduce your solution, your paid product or service, which presumably helps them fill that gap. So this is the process, your quiz kickoff checklist. Now, if we go to our handouts and we go to the Dropbox link, the one that you want to be looking at here is as follows. The one that says number 3. See the one that says number 3, kickoff workbook? There are 2 main workbooks that we're going to be using here today. As I mentioned, this is a 3.5 day boot camp that I'm compressing elements of into the 3 hours that we have. And what we're covering now is what we do in our kickoff workshop. So that PDF that you see, 03 QFBC kickoff workshop, you might want to click on that. You might want to download that to your computer. You might want to open that up, and I would recommend that you save it to your desktop. Do as I say, not as I do. Save it to your desktop because there are elements of this that in just a moment, we're going to be filling in together. And I'm going to encourage you to play along. You know, the tendency is to want to sit back passively, just enjoy the show. But my recommendation to you to get the most out of our time here together, the more that you are actively involved, the more that you resist the temptation to just sit back and actually play along, have a little bit of fun with this. Don't worry about getting it perfect. Just put in your first couple thoughts. It's going to get the ball rolling. It's going to help make some progress. So this is my recommendation to you. Download that PDF, and we're going to start filling some things in together based on our first initial ideas and initial thoughts on what your quiz might potentially look like. So let's take a look at our slides here in the process. Process is as follows. These 6 steps. Start with your offer, brainstorm the topic, brainstorm the framework, brainstorm your hook, make a short list of your top 4 ideas, and then select your hook. So this is the process right here. We're going to begin with step 1, start with your offer. So I mentioned a moment ago, the first thing that you got to get clarity on is what are you selling on the back of this quiz? What's the point of this quiz? You're not just doing it for fun, right? You're doing it for a business reason. You want to get more people to watch your webinar, more people to sign up as clients, more people to buy your physical products. You're doing something. The goal of this quiz is to generate leads and customers. So you want to get clear. Now, when it comes to your offer, you might, there's some questions that are important and helpful to ask. Like, for example, what's your most popular product or service? That could be a great candidate to put on the back of a quiz. Quiz is a great way to scale something that's already working well. Which of your products solves a well-known problem? Do you have a new product that you want to launch in a big way? A quiz is an incredible way to explode into a market with a new product. If you don't have a product or you're not sure what to sell, send people to a wait list. That's a great way. You're not sure what you might want to sell right now, put people to a wait list. And as you'll see in a moment, you can use this wait list strategy to figure out what to sell or sell the next thing that you're planning on launching. You can build a list to make an offer in the future. Now, if you have no product, create a pre-launch list for your yet to be created product. Quizzes are a great way to create a pre-launch list, whether you're writing a new book, launching a new course, create a pre-launch list using a quiz. The best way to build a list quickly is to, for a launch, is to do so via quiz. I shared with you Jamal Miller, I think a moment ago. Jamal has a quiz that he created. Why are you still single? He sells in the Christian singles market. You can see Jamal with his family here, created a quiz. Why are you still single? Generated over 10,000 leads in 14 days. Thing went viral. He went from making $17 an hour working for his church, trying to build his business part-time, to making over $500,000 in his first year on the back of this strategy. Now, if your product is not available right now, you might say you have a seasonal product or something that you only open periodically, like with a launch or something of that nature. Build an interest list. And you can swap in the offer when the product is available. So in other words, you can create a quiz where you don't necessarily have to have your sales process dialed in on the back end. You can use it to build a interest list and then replace that wait list with a sales video for your product as soon as it's ready. So an example of this is Blue Melnick and Barry Bumgardner, the principals at Sage Events. Most of you, I think, know Barry and Blue. They are incredible in the event space to produce some of the biggest events in our industry, including Tony Robbins' event last year. And so we created a quiz. What type of event is right for you? They weren't quite ready to launch their course, so we used it to build an interest list, a pre-launch list for their offer. And before their offer was ready, we just sent them to a little video that looks like this. They built a list of tens of thousands of people for launching their offer on the back of the strategy. Let's say you're selling something now and you might want to sell something different down the road. No problem. You can use the same quiz funnel to sell a different product down the road. Your post-quiz prescription can be changed. You can change it from a book to a course to coaching to an event. You can have one quiz that is so flexible. All you need to do is swap out the outcome page on the back end. I mentioned Maston Kipp. His example is the one that I shared here. He literally went from selling his book to selling his course. The only thing he changed was the page he was sending people after they took his quiz. And by the way, if you don't have an offer, you're not sure what to create, you can use a quiz to build a list of people so you can ask. Mike, at the beginning, when he introduced me, talked about how the ask method, one of the most powerful aspects of it is the fact that you can survey your audience in a very specific way to understand the hot buttons, the challenges, the frustrations, the struggles that they have, so you can dial in your marketing messaging and your products based on those needs. Well, the process is simple. Step 1, launch a quiz. Step 2, run a deep dive survey to that list of people that you've built. Step 3, create and sell what your list wants. An example of that is Gabby and Luis Carlos. I shared their story. They're the couple who sell in the parenting market in the Spanish-speaking market, generated a list of 1 million people, did a survey to that list and said, hey, what are you struggling with as a parent? Created a course that solved that need, made $1 million. It doesn't get any more complicated than that. That's it. Now, if you're stuck, you're still not sure, my final recommendation is to start with a practice quiz. If you're kind of sitting there right now and you're like, oh, I could do this, I could do that, take the pressure off yourself. Don't try to get it perfect out of the gate. Start with a practice quiz. In fact, that's exactly what I did. If you're like most people, your first quiz will not be your last quiz. So detach yourself from the outcome, focus on this process, and take that first step. I've got a couple resources that I'm setting you guys up with. If you're still stuck and you're like, I don't know what makes the most sense, we have 2 resources for you. One is in the Dropbox link. You'll see it's resource number 1 in the list. It's, number 2. It's 101 profitable ideas. That will give you a whole bunch of different quiz funnel niche ideas for you. And then the second one is resource number 1, which is quiz funnel ideas. So actual potential quizzes to kind of jog your thinking. So first thing that you want to do, start with your offer. And to do that, we're going to go to our workbook. So this is resource number 3, the kickoff workbook. It's the one that looks like this. And what you're going to do is you are going to scroll down. You find the right page to page 4 in the PDF where it says start with your offer. And in this space right here, this will take you 10 seconds. We're going to do it together in real time. What's your market? What are you selling? And what's the price point of that thing? So you might say the market is the weight loss market. Let me zoom in so you can see that a little bit more easily. You're just going to do it. Let's do it together right now. Weight loss market. What are you selling? I'm selling my weight loss bootcamp virtual. And what's the price point? Let's say it's a $497 program. Okay, great. Done. Step 1, done. Once you've done that, you can check off the box. Step 1, we are finished. Now we can move on to step 2, brainstorming your topic. So now that we've got clarity on what it is that you are going to be selling on the back of your quiz, now we can come up with a topic that's going to attract the right type of people. So let's go through that process. So when it comes to figuring out your topic, there are a few thought starters, resources, and tools that I want to share with you. And I'm going to go through these pretty rapid fire. You'll have access to these resources, but you might want to take some notes as we go through them. So a few different questions I always ask whenever I'm going into a new market, thinking about what the quiz might be about. I ask myself, what are the questions people are always asking? What are the 3 to 5 challenges that people are always struggling with? In my space, it's things like building their list. It's things like choosing their market. And it's things like doing a launch or creating a webinar. What are the questions that people are always struggling with? Number 2, what are the things that people are insanely curious about in your market? Where is there an opportunity to tap into the psychology of self-discovery? Number 3, what are things that are hot in the media right now? Using a newsjacking approach. This is a great approach for thinking about a quiz. Someone's going to create the Clubhouse quiz because people can't stop talking about Clubhouse, right? Like Clubhouse is ripe for a quiz right now because it's the thing that's in the media. Things like crypto and Bitcoin, that's getting a lot of attention, right? So at the time of this recording, we have all these big players that have bought $100 million, billion. Elon Musk, $1.5 billion worth of crypto through Tesla. Crypto, Bitcoin is a huge topic right now. So that's ripe for a quiz. So using that newsjacking approach. Next thing to think about for a potential quiz topic. What are the myths, mistakes, and misconceptions in your market? What are the things that people just completely get wrong? Great opportunity for a quiz. And finally, last but not least, what are the things in your market that offer a high degree of either loss or gain? Meaning there's a huge potential for people to win big or a huge potential for people to lose big if they make a mistake, if they screw up this part of their life or their business. All of these are great possible thought starters to help you think about what your quiz topic might be. I've got some other tools for you that I'm going to go rapid fire through as well. So these are some of the tools that I like to use when I'm brainstorming different topics. One of my favorites is a tool called Answer the Public. It's a tool you just type in a term, like here I type in the word sleep, you go to answerthepublic.com, and it gives you this whole mind map of questions that people ask around sleep. Using these question words like when, which, why, what. Like for example, which sleep is best? Which sleep stage do you dream? Which sleep position is best? That's a quiz right there. Which sleep position is right for you? Take the quiz to find out now. Boom. Great idea here. Which sleep mask? Which sleep mask is right for you? Take the quiz to get a sleep mask recommendation to help you get the best sleep of your life. We take into account things like your face shape, your sleep habits, even your sleep position, and we'll recommend what sleep mask is right for you to get the best sleep of your life. Take the quiz to find out now. Another great tool, AllTop. AllTop is a great tool for looking at the top headlines that are happening in the world right now. And you can oftentimes find something that's in a space or market or industry completely unrelated to yours, and it'll give you a great idea. Another example you can see here, which one did I want to draw attention to? So modern mobile app, how to pick the best Microsoft Surface laptop. That's a quiz right there. How to get Safari's new privacy features, food net and kitchen app, a debate over burning dead trees. So many great options there. Another great tool that I love is a tool called BuzzSumo. It's a tool to find some of the best performing content on the internet. You type in a word like sleep and you can see some of the best performing articles. Most times a great article can be made into a quiz, by the way. You can see here how to eat if you want better sleep. That might be a great quiz. What foods should you eat to get better sleep? Take this quiz to find out now. How to sleep on a plane, 18 illustrated positions for in-flight snoozing. So many great examples there. Google's your friend. Lots of different little hacks that you can do with Google. A great word to type in before your keyword is types of sleep. And you can see here, types of sleep apnea, types of sleep disorders, type of sleeper. What type of sleeper are you? Take the quiz to find out now. There you go. There's another quiz idea. Another great autocorrect tool or autocomplete tool is type in your keyword and then go through the alphabet. Sleep space A, sleep space B, C, D, E, and you get a whole bunch of different ideas by doing that. And I've gone through that here. Another great tool that I love is visualthesaurus.com. You can type in a word like sleep and you can see all the different kind of related terms. For example, a word that stands out to me here is nap. Maybe there's a quiz opportunity around napping, maybe not sleeping, but around napping. What type of napper are you? Should you be taking naps? Take this quiz to find out now. Wordtracker.com is a classic. Again, another great keyword tool that you can use to see some of the highest volume keyword searches around your niche. What stands out to me here is number 4 on this list is Sleep Number. There's an entire mattress company that's built their entire billion-dollar business on the back of a quiz. What's your sleep number? Take this quiz to find out now. And they recommend what your sleep number is and what mattress to buy based on that number. And many a happy marriages has this quiz preserved for couples who maybe have different sleep numbers. So what you want to do now is just take a moment based on kind of this rapid fire approach, the initial ideas that you've written down, to just write down in our little workbook that we got going here, your first few ideas. And you can do so by skipping through that same resource that we're on, Kickoff Workbook 03, skip down to page 8, and just type in at least 1 or 2 of your initial ideas. So what did we come up with? What type of sleeper are you? And then do this for your market, not the sleep market. Unless if you're in the sleep market, you're in luck. Man, I'm doing all the heavy lifting for you here. You're going to walk away with a quiz. Maybe something around napping. Maybe something around sleep position. Those are a few ideas. Maybe what type of mattress is right for you. We had the sleep mask idea. So just a few ideas that kind of jump out at you. And again, it's not about getting it perfect. Just get the wheels turning, get something written down. Being actively involved instead of just passively kind of soaking this all in will help your brain be engaged in a way that your subconscious mind starts doing the heavy lifting for you. And when you're, at the break and thinking about things, your brain will continue working in the background. So fill in a few of these. And once you've done that, we're going to check off box number 2. All right. It takes us to box number 3, brainstorming your framework. All right. How do you decide what framework to use? Again, there are 3 different frameworks: type, killer, score. And in your quiz, you might find that one of these frameworks works better or fits more snugly than one of the others. Like, for example, if you have a natural set of categories in your business, you might go with type. If there are a set of mistakes that people tend to make that hold them back from achieving the result that your product or service delivers, you might want to use a killer quiz. And finally, if you have a journey that you take people on, a journey of success where there are key steps or milestones along the way, you might think about using a score-based quiz. Now, for this, we're going to jump to page 10. We skip 2 pages forward. Page 10, you're going to see there's a whole list of words that you can use that are synonymous with type, killer, and score. Words that you could certainly pull from this list, or words that will give you some ideas. You're not restricted to the words on this list, but will give you some ideas of putting people into different types, or identifying the killer, or identifying the score. You might find that the word killer is just not appropriate for your market. It's a little too crass. It's a little too antithetical to your brand. It may not fit. You may be in a sort of softer space. You might need something like suppressor or blocker or pitfall. So don't think that you're restricted to using words like type, killer, and score when you're describing your quiz, but you can use words on this list. So you might want to take a moment to take a look at these words and then jot down maybe 1 or 2 words that stand out to you as ones that may fit. Like, for example, in our sleep example, we've already thought about, sleep position is one way we might do this. Type of sleeper is one way we might do this. In the killer space, maybe it's sleep killers. What's killing your sleep? That could be one. Sleep score is a way that we might do it. And I'd recommend and encourage you to think about ideas under each of these frameworks. So a few possible ideas for type in the first column, a few possible ideas for a killer in the second column, and a few possible ideas for a score in the third column. Now, in the time that we have, we don't have time for breakout work sessions. If we were spending more time together, we would certainly be going through this. So just kind of jot down your initial idea. And if you have a blank, that's okay. Just put a few question marks, and it's a placeholder for you to remember, you know what? I need to maybe think a little bit more about what score possibility might work for me. All right, great. Once we've done that, We officially checked off box number 3, moving right along, making some great progress here. Now we want to actually brainstorm the hook itself. So we've started with the offer. We have a rough idea of what you're selling. We then move to the topic, some possible ideas that are kind of, starting the process. We thought about the framework itself. Are we going type, killer, or score, and maybe some words that we might use? Now we're actually going to brainstorm possible hooks. This is where we combine the topic and the framework in a way that's phrased to concisely summarize what the quiz is all about. And we've got a whole bunch of examples of this in that resource that you get access to, which is 101 quiz funnel ideas. So if I go to that resource, that is resource number 1 in our Dropbox list. If you click on that, open it up, download it, save it to your computer, fire it up here, you're going to see a whole bunch of different ideas. These are just thought starters. I mean, you might find one on here that fits great with your business, but that's not the objective. The objective here is to give you some ideas. So for example, if you're in the client services space, you have a consulting practice, coaching, an agency, you're a freelancer, you work with clients one-on-one, here are a whole bunch of ideas, right? So what business loan's right for you? How job ready are you? What's the number 1 relationship killer in your life? What fitness business model is right for you? What type of live event should you host for your business? So just a whole bunch of ideas to just kind of get your mind thinking about a possible hook for your business. When you have time at your leisure, feel free to browse through that and go through that. What I want to give you today are six easy and effective ways to format your quiz hook for your quiz. Now, the reason why this next step is important is you want to be able to concisely articulate your quiz idea in just a few short words. You don't want to have to explain in a paragraph. So my quiz is a quiz that helps people figure out, no. You want to be able to say, quiz, what's your sleep position? Take the quiz to find out now. Or quiz, what's your weight loss type? That's it. Quiz, what's your number 1 swing killer? You want to be able to articulate your quiz in a very short, simple, and concise way, because that is how you're going to be positioning your quiz in the form of a headline in your ads, in the form of a subject line in your emails, in the form of a simple opening in your videos. You want to be able to articulate it in just a few short words, and we have some easy to use frameworks that you can use for this. So let's check it out. So 6 easy and effective ways to format your hook for your quiz. Here's the first one. Quiz, what's your topic plus framework? So you just came up with your topic, you just came up with your framework, you're simply filling in the gaps. Quiz, what's your wealth blocker? Quiz, what's your skin type? Quiz, what's your fitness score? And by the way, you might be asking yourself, what's the reason, for putting the word quiz in caps and in brackets at the beginning? What that does is it indicates to people when they see this headline that it's a quiz. And it's a powerful word. Remember, we have a software platform. We have over 200 million data points annually. So we have a tremendous amount of data around everything like the optimal number of questions to create a high converting quiz, the optimal number of words in each question, the optimal number of answers in each individual question, the words themselves that move the needle and make the biggest difference. And quiz is one of these hot button words. There's a word that you never want to use. That word, by the way, is survey. People hate taking surveys, but they love taking quizzes. So use that word quiz in your headline. Quiz, what's your fitness score? Quiz, what's your sleep profile? Quiz, what's your stamina killer? Another format number 2, the second way that you could possibly frame your quiz looks like this. Quiz, what topic is right for you? So what mattress is right for your body type? What business loan is right for you? What personal trainer is right for your fitness goals? So what topic, insert the blank, is right for you? Format number 3, how blank ready are you? How detox ready are you? How summer holiday ready is your wardrobe? How ready are you to get back into dating? Take the quiz to find out now. So how ready are you is a great format. Format number 4, which of these topic mistakes are you making? Quiz, which of these weight loss mistakes are you making? Quiz, which of these study mistakes is your high schooler making? Quiz, which of these common budgeting mistakes is your household making? So which of these blank mistakes are you making? And by the way, bear with me 1 second. I want to just double check because for those of you who are frantically taking notes right now, I can see you trying to get all this down. We have these for you. I just want to point you in the right direction. You're going to find all of these in your kickoff workbook. So that's resource 03. Resource 03, your kickoff workbook. You're going to find them starting on page 12. So by all means, feel free to take notes on this, but I just don't want you to feel like you're, I know I'm going fast. Trust me. Like I said, 3.5 days in 3 hours here. But you have these resources. So you have these examples, and the teams posted it again if you have trouble finding it. Okay, cool. Format number 5. What type of topic should you verb? So that looks like this. What type of business should you start? Take the quiz. What type of online course should you create? What type of executive assistant should you hire? So topic plus verb, another format. And finally, format number 6, quiz plus an intriguing question. Quiz, how much money could this IoT technology save you in your business? Take the quiz to find out now. Quiz, can you really improve your memory in just 10 short days? Quiz, how many years can you add to your life with meditation? Take the quiz to find out now. Now, I know some of you might be asking, do you have to use one of these formats? Well, the answer is no. These formats are guides only. You are only limited to your imagination. But one of my phrases, one of the things I teach all of our clients, all of our students, is I always recommend to emulate before you innovate. I get it. You're creative. You're entrepreneurial. We all are. We want that. We have that temptation to want to say, hey, you know what? I know, Ryan, I know you've spent 100,000 hours doing this. I know you've dedicated the last 20 years of your life figuring this out. I've never done this before, but I have this idea. Well, your idea very well could be better than anything that we've ever tested, but I recommend at least starting with a best practice so you have a baseline, and then you can see, does your new innovative idea outperform the baseline starting point, or does it underperform? So you can compare it on a relative basis. Emulate before you innovate. It makes it easy to use a tried and tested format. So as I mentioned, these are all in that workbook that you've got access to. And the next thing that you want to do now, we're going to take just a half a second to do this. On page 16 of your workbook, the kickoff workbook, again, resource 03, you want to just take a moment to type in one idea. So just one, just to get practice on this step of the process. You're going to want to do more than this, but let's start with one. Quiz, type the word quiz in all caps and brackets. And based on the formats that we've come up with, what's maybe one idea that you've jotted down or thought about that's come to mind? What mattress is right for your body type? Take the quiz to find out now. Great. So take one, take a moment to do this, type it in, and you'll kind of get the process. And you're going to want to do this over and over again until you've come up with at least ideally 15 different ideas. And the reason for that is, as we all know as marketers, the first idea is often not the best idea. We've got to get through that throat clearing, got to get through all the kind of messy garbage in our brain before we can cut through the clutter and get to the good stuff. And oftentimes it's that last one that comes in just under the deadline, right at the end. That's the one that is the best of the bunch. Now, I want to give you a little bit of a few troubleshooting tips as you're going through this process of brainstorming quiz hook possibilities. You want to use the word quiz in the prefix. That's number one. And what that does, it helps to make sure that your headline, that your articulation of your quiz hook feels like a quiz. You want to make sure that it actually works, that the language, the word makes sense to a stranger seeing those words for the first time. Here's some other tips, common mistakes that I see people make. You want to avoid yes-no conclusions. So you want to avoid quizzes that the outcome is either going to be yes or no. I'll give you an example of what I mean. Here was Janine Samuels, who's in the cheerleading space. She's a professional cheerleader and ex-cheerleader for the Washington Wizards and the Washington football team, formerly known as the Redskins. For many years, she was a team captain, and she built a business helping other young women become pro cheerleaders. So her first quiz idea was, are you pro cheerleader material? Yes or no? Well, what happens when a woman takes this quiz and she's given the answer no? That's it. You've slammed the door in her face. You're not pro cheerleader material. Sorry. Like, go away. So you don't want to do that. Instead, you want to give people multiple roads. So here's a better version, her after version. What's your pro cheerleader potential? So we've taken people away from this binary yes or no scenario to one that exists more on a scale, on a spectrum, where there's going to be an answer for everyone who takes the quiz. All right. Next tip. You want to avoid how much do you know / IQ angles for score quizzes. This is not one of these quizzes. So just to be clear, the type of quiz funnel that you're building here is not one that would test people's knowledge on the topic. The name of the game here isn't for people to show you how smart they are. It's not one of these IQ quizzes. And the reason for that is oftentimes it gives people a false sense of preparedness toward the transformation you provide in your product or service. How many times, and you might, as I ask you this question, think about this in your business, and maybe you've had this in your life. How many times do you feel like you might know something? You know the right answer. You know what you need to do, but it doesn't necessarily reflect the work that you've done in that area of your life, right? Like you know what you need to do to be a better romantic partner. You know what you need to do to prepare your business. You know what you need to do to eat healthier in the kitchen and work out in the gym. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you've actually done it, right? So we don't want to give people this false sense of accomplishment where they feel like patting themselves on the back and say, yeah, I know what I need to do. I don't need to buy your workout equipment. I know exactly what I need to do. So you want to avoid these IQ-based angles. So in this case here, go from what is your pregnancy IQ score to what's your pregnancy readiness score. Before, how much do you really know about insurance to what type of insurance is right for you. More troubleshooting tips. Avoid more than one idea in your hook. For those of you who have more than one idea right now, just show of hands, show me who has like more than one idea right now. If you got like a few different possible ideas. Yeah. The worst thing that you could possibly do is make poopy colored Play-Doh and combine all those colors together. That's the worst thing that you can do. Don't combine the purple and the yellow and the red and the blue because it's going to make that poopy brown color. So don't do that with your quiz hooks. Don't try to combine them all into one and make some like mega quiz idea. It's less is more here. So take a look at this. You don't want to do something like this. Yeah.
I'm wondering if we could break things up and do a couple examples, because I know there's a lot of spinning heads right now.
Okay.
Would it be okay if we did some actually incorporated some of these ideas, but with some live examples, just so they get some support?
So I'm about to get to
am I going to mess you up in your flow?
I'm going to get to a pausing point in about 6 or 7 slides to do just that.
Great. Thanks.
All right. Awesome. So a couple more tips, and then we'll take a few live examples. I think that's a great idea. Okay, great. So here's an example of combining too many ideas into a quiz. Quiz, what's your health superpower and silent killer? I don't even know what that's about. Like I have to read that 3 times for my brain to even understand what it is, right? That goes from being very complicated and too much to quiz. What's the #1 silent killer causing your stress? Another example. Another tip is you want to create distance to avoid resistance to blame, and at the same time add a bit of intrigue in the process. And this is best understood by showing you an example. If you have a quiz that reads, what's your stress type? By doing that, you run the risk of people resisting their diagnosis because it's too tied to their personal identity. But you can create just a shade of distance by not making it about them, but instead making about, for example, their body. What's your body's stress type? See that subtle difference? Just that nuance, taking it from what's your stress type to what's your body's stress type? Or even better, what's your body's natural stress type? Now you've taken it from this thing that the person is screwed up or messed up to your body just has this natural stress response. It's not your fault. It's just the way your body is. But once you identify what that natural stress type is, then and only then can we work through and formulate a plan to address that. You could also have what's your body's stress response score. Other great ways to create distance to avoid resistance to blame. A few more things I want to get to, and then we'll take Mike's suggestion and do maybe a few live examples here. So for mistakes and killer angle, use the phrase or the number 1. So you can take it from what's your relationship killer, which is a little meh, to what's your number 1 relationship killer. It just gives it just that little, it punches it up just a bit. It gives it a little bit more teeth. Taking it from quiz, what are your debt mistakes, to what's your number 1 debt mistake? Take the quiz to find out now. Consider diction, and in some cases, alliteration. So the words you use in your quiz, you want your quiz to be able to roll off the tongue. So for example, before quiz, what's your healthy pregnancy blind spot? It's a bit of a mouthful. To what about this? What's your birth plan blind spot? That alliteration causes it to roll off the tongue. Or another approach, what's your pregnancy preparation score? Much easier than what's your healthy pregnancy blind spot, which just doesn't, you kind of stub your toe, as we say in copy a few times. One more. Before, what pro-fertility foods is your diet missing? My brain almost needs to read that and reread that a couple times to understand it. To what's your number 1 fertility diet deficiency? Another example, what's your book publishing type can become what publishing path is right for you. And finally, make sure that you're using language that your market is already using. So I saw this with an estate planning attorney creating a quiz for his practice. Started with, what's your legacy readiness score? And I said, is legacy readiness, is that actually a phrase that people use, that consumers really use in real life? Like when a husband and wife are sitting at the dinner table and they're, eating the mashed potatoes, does the husband go to the wife and say, I wonder what our legacy readiness is right now? No, it's probably a phrase that's never been uttered outside of marketing circles. What about estate planning? Oh yeah, that's a word that people use. What's your estate planning readiness score? And make it clear, make it simple. Less is more. Keep it simple. What's your lead generation readiness score? Can just become what's your number 1 lead generation killer. All right. So once you've done this, you're able to check off this box, brainstorming your quiz hook.
Most of us had a blank whiteboard in our offices, and we took a bunch of the words and threw them up on the whiteboard and then eliminated words, and we ended up with our little mission statement, right? Go team. The reason that doesn't work and has never worked is it's never really given our employees enough of a full picture of what we're thinking about. So 18 years ago, I was invited to a lunch. 120 entrepreneurs in Vancouver, Canada were invited to a luncheon, and we were told to look into a crystal ball. Well, we thought that was a really flaky idea, looking into the crystal ball. We didn't know how to apply it to the business world, but it was a high-performance sports psychologist talking to us about visualization. And he was talking about how athletes will visualize themselves performing the event, how athletes will roll themselves through the event. They'll close their eyes and picture themselves going over and over and over through the event. And that process of visualization helps them compete completely on instinct. So we didn't know how to take that analogy into the business world, so we looked for another analogy, and he told us about Brooke Shields. He said when Brooke was getting married to Andre Agassi, she didn't like her legs, so she put a picture of what she wanted her legs to look like up on the refrigerator. Well, we know that the marriage between Andre Agassi and Brooke Shields didn't work out. He ended up getting married to Steffi Graf. The crazy thing was those were Steffi Graf's legs on the refrigerator. So the process of visualization did work. Unfortunately, it worked for Andre. So the number 1 thing you're learning today is go home and take down all the photos off your refrigerator. Okay, so that still didn't help us. We didn't know how to take the concept of visualization, bring it into the business world, but we found out that home builders use visualization every day. So a quick show of hands if you've built a house or done a renovation. Okay, almost all of you, great. Think back to that process, that time when you were first meeting with the contractor. You were the CEO of the home building project. You were the one that had the vision of the home. You didn't give the contractor a 1-sentence statement and say, build me my dream home, here's $2 million and leave. That's a vision statement. That 1 sentence, build me my dream home, and I'll go away for a year, they're going to screw it up because they can't read your mind. So you gave them sketches and drawings and pictures. You talked about how your family entertained and how you'd use the home and how many kids you would have and where your friends would be. Like, you told them more so they could take your vision and go away and create blueprints and come back with the blueprints and hand the blueprints to your employees, and the employees could recreate your dream. That's where the analogy of the vivid vision started to come from. The vivid vision becomes a 4 or 5 page written document describing your company 3 years and only 3 years from now in the future. You roll your camera ahead December 31st, 3 years from now, and I want you to think about what your business looks like, acts like, and feels like. And I've given you 2 sample copies of Vivid Visions for 2 of my businesses. When you read through those, I want you to ask yourself if you understand my business better than your employees understand yours.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video, and I want to let you know that I have a new book that's come out, and if you'd like to get it absolutely free, there's a link below in the description, or you can wait till the end of this video, or you can simply go to joesfreebook.com and you can get a copy there.
Who's seen the movie The Sound of Music? Okay, who's never seen the movie The Sound of Music? Who has no idea what the movie The Sound of Music's about? Anybody? Kevin? No idea? Jason, you have no idea? Okay, but you've never seen it, so don't say anything. There's a really famous scene in the movie, and I need to tease you a little bit for this to work, but there's a really famous scene in the movie where they're actually having a picnic. Now I want you to recreate the picnic scene for me perfectly, like the movie The Sound of Music. Should it be in a park, in the mountains, or at a lake?
A park.
Okay, a park, perfect. And where do we get the food? Should we get it at a grocery store, at a hut in the park, or should we bring it in a basket?
Bring it in a basket.
Bring in a basket, and let's bring kids to the picnic as well. Should the kids be dancing, playing baseball, or playing croquet?
Croquet.
Playing croquet, thank you, Jason, but you completely screwed up my picnic. See, I said, and you're the smartest guy, I want you in the 100K group, I said I need it to be just like The Sound of Music, but because you've never seen the movie, you can't recreate it. It's in the hills or alive in the Alps, not in a park, and they're dancing. There was a theme, The Sound of Music. It wasn't The Sound of Croquet. But most of us in our businesses give a 1-sentence statement to people and expect them to read our minds, and we get frustrated because we're intuitive and they're not. The reason they're not intuitive is they can't see what we can see. Your only real job as the CEO is to communicate the vision, to communicate the picture of what your business looks and feels like. And the 1-sentence vision statement isn't enough. Even in Traction, when they give you the Vision Traction Organizer, a list of a bunch of bullet points, that doesn't explain the full picture of what your company can look like. Imagine doing a jigsaw puzzle without knowing what the picture would be like. You could do it, but it would take a lot longer. If you're writing a vivid vision, you've got to get out of the box. You can't sit in your office and write this. You have to go somewhere where you're inspired, somewhere around nature. Go to a park, go to the mountains, go sit up at the top of Camelback. Go sit somewhere where you're not in your business. No laptop, no iPad, no technology. Take a notepad, and I want you to pretend like you're traveling in the future. You're hopping into a time machine, and you're going 3 years out into the future to 2020. And I want you to start doing a mind map and describing your entire company. Describe operations, 3 bullet points about operations, 3 about marketing, 3 about IT, about engineering, about sales. I want you to write down 3 or 4 bullet points about what your customers are saying about you, what the media is writing about you, what your employees are saying. I want you to talk about your supplier relationships. I want you to talk about the buzz that you feel when you walk in. I want you to talk about the culture and your meeting rhythms and your dashboards. But don't worry about how it comes true. Remember, the homeowner's job is to describe what the home looks like. The contractor's job is to figure out the plans, and the employee's job is to execute the plans. As Annie pointed out yesterday, your leadership team is the group that figures out the plans to make your vision come true. You articulate the vivid vision, and then you grow leaders so they can actually put the plans in place, and then you can coach them and they can coach the team to execute. You get all the bullet points written down from a mind map and you organize them into rough notes. You pull a bunch of the rough notes together, and then you can create your first draft of your vivid vision. Now, Jennifer Hude, she's not here today, but Jennifer has actually written dozens and dozens and dozens of the final drafts of Vivid Visions for CEOs all over the world. I get requests all the time from all of my books about Vivid Visions. They all get directed to Jennifer's team, and she helps polish them off the page because you give it to a professional writer, and they can pop it. They can take your rough work and really make it pop. Then you add some graphic design elements to it. This is a client who I've coached for 4 years, from 50 employees up to 700 employees. They just raised $255 million from Warburg Pincus, one of the top tier investment banks, who bought into the company at about a $2 billion valuation because of the dream of the vivid vision. When you can raise $255 million and you're only doing $200 million in revenue, they're buying into something, and it's not your business plan. They're buying into the dream. Now, your vivid vision when you write it has to be like a magnet. It has to completely compel people and pull them towards you. Now, if it's like a magnet, what else does a magnet do? It attracts. What else does it do? It repels. It has to be able to push some people away as well. This is not a kumbaya group hug. Your job as the CEO is to articulate what you see, what you can feel, and then attract the potential employees, the customers, and the suppliers toward you because they vibrate with you. I ran this session years ago. I went into a conference, and CEO brought me in to speak to all of his employees. We ran a big session around it, and then he read his vivid vision to all of his employees. And he said, you know, about 15% of you hate what you just heard. And he said, that's okay. It's the right time for you to quit. But the 85% of you that love what you just heard, he clicked to the next slide. He said, tomorrow go to this office address. Because today, while we've been off-site as a company, a moving company came and packed up our entire company and moved all 70 of us to this new location. Now, if you're excited by that idea, it was like, hell yeah, let's do this, right? But if you weren't, 15% of his employees did quit. And a year and a half later, he ranked as the #2 company in British Columbia to work for. Another client that I coached, Nurse Next Door, ranked as #1. The alignment around vision is critical. And the one-sentence mission statement has never worked, and we know it's never worked. Because whenever we created it with our teams, we all walked out saying, they just don't have the same alignment that I want them to have. Your call, right? We can try to create picnics like The Sound of Music and end up playing croquet. Or you can craft your vivid vision and have everybody on the same page.
Okay, here we go. No, don't stand up yet. You're taking away from my time. Okay, I'd like to reset the clock, please. I'm going to share with you the whole concept of this is ideas worth using, and specifically ideas that have been worth at least $250,000. And I want to share with you one question that if you take this question really seriously, it literally will change the way that you operate your business for the better. Here's the question right here. What would you do if you only got paid when your client gets a result? Now, just think about that question. I call it a clarifying question because what it really does is it helps you identify the critical things that are responsible for getting the result that you actually get. Even if you're not only getting paid for delivering a result right now, how many of you know that you absolutely are responsible for delivering a result, whether you have to deliver it in advance or not? This process, this clarifying question, the first time you ask it, and I started asking this question 5 years ago before I actually started doing anything about it, because at first, the clarifying question is more of a terrifying question. And I'm going to share with you some of the insights that I've had in applying this that have turned it into being more clarifying. Here's the good news. If you're going to only get paid for results, you have to deliver less results than you have to promise. And I'm talking about that in a way that when you start thinking about delivering a result before you get paid, before you actually get paid, you only have to deliver far less than what you have to promise somebody that you're going to be able to deliver after they downsize it to make the decision that they're going to take a chance on you and buy it in the first place. I'll give you an example. What we do now with one of the divisions of my company is a website called moneymakingwebsites.com, and we do the very best real estate websites in the world for real estate agents. And here's what we're able to do is you're able to sell something for 5 times more than what your competitors are charging for the same thing, and you only have to promise a less result. The way our offer works is, and it's come to this now, is that we give people the website. I take them through an entire training program for 90 days. I buy their domain name. I buy their GetResponse account. I take them through the training program. They pay no money out of pocket. They don't give me their credit card in advance. I take them through the 90-day program. And at the end, if they've done a transaction, they pay me $1,500 and then they pay $99 a month. It's an irresistible offer to people. There's no friction in getting people to engage in an offer like that. Now, what I have to promise, I'm only saying I only have to deliver one transaction because I'm responsible. I'm going to get paid. I'm going to show you that it does work. I'm going to show you how to get it done, and I'm going to help you get your first transaction, and then you're going to pay me the $1,500. Now, if I'm having to convince people to give me money in advance, I have to talk about the incredible results that the people before them are getting. I have to talk about people who get 80 times return on investment on the money that they spend on bringing traffic to their website. I have to show them a parade of people that have done that before them to convince them that that's the way that it could work out for them. But when you make that promise that you're going to only get paid on results, if you can do it once, that you've done your job. It's much easier to deliver that one result. It's less expensive to deliver the result than it is to convince people to give you money to deliver the result. Now, how many of you are familiar with a concept called cost of acquisition? How many of you have a budget for your cost of acquisition? Now, when I look at that when you're trying to convince people to give you money, that takes a process. It takes some sales effort. They have to talk to somebody. They have to do their due diligence. There's some time involved in that. And there's a cost of getting somebody to raise their hand and even have that conversation with you. You're generating leads and converting them into buyers. Now, when you're actually going through the process of delivering the result, I did the numbers and I looked at it, and it cost about a quarter of what it costs me to acquire a customer to actually deliver the result for them. And so when you look at that math for you, you might find that it's far less expensive for you to actually just go ahead and deliver the result for people than it is to get them. People are far less attached to future money than they are to present money. Now, that's something that I learned from Dan Sullivan, the whole concept of a bigger future. Now, winners are magnanimous. Winners are far more likely to be more generous with the money that you're hypothetically delivering to them in the future than they are giving you their limited supply of the money that they have right now. That money's already accounted for. That money's already spent. So when you're looking forward there, I'll tell you the very best thing, if you think about a never-ending coaching program, something that people would never leave, if I said to you, here's the way our coaching program works. On the first of the month, we're going to bill your credit card for $1,000. And then on the second of the month, we're going to deposit $2,000 into your bank account. How many of you would join that type of coaching program? We don't have any calls. There's no member website. There's no discussion board. There's no monthly newsletter. There's no quarterly events. There's nothing like that. How many of you are still interested? Now, how many of you would be interested if I said to you, here's how our coaching program works. On the first of the month, I'm going to deposit $2,000 into your bank account, and on the second of the month, I'm going to take $1,000 from your credit card. How many of you would be interested in that arrangement? Can you see the difference in that? That's an irresistible offer. Here's my last insight. A compelling offer is 10 times more powerful than a convincing argument. And I'm going to let that sink in for a second because there's a big distinction between compelling somebody to do something somebody is compelled to do, than something that they are convinced to do. If you've listened to the I Love Marketing podcast, one of the themes that we talk about is this idea that your prospects are like mice, and that mice come pre-programmed with 2 prime directives: to get cheese and avoid cats. You don't have to convince a mouse to go get the cheese. The mouse is compelled to go get the cheese. Your prospects are compelled to seek their self-interest. They're compelled to seek things that they want internally. Nothing that you can do to convince somebody is anywhere near as powerful as tapping into, like, the jet stream of what they're already compelled to do. Does that make sense? You think about it in anything that you do. Anything that you do, your selfish reason for doing it. Even if, we've been talking about delivering a monetary result for somebody, which is crystal clear and easy to deliver. But I had this conversation with Yuri last week about diabetes. Somebody who has diabetes is compelled to seek to get rid of that. You don't have to convince them to want to get rid of it. If you've actually got the ability to do it for them, it's amazing if you can actually get that result for them in advance. So that's my 10-minute talk worth $250,000.
Hey, everybody. I'm thrilled to be here and mostly just humbled because as much as Joe and I give each other shit all the time, he's one of my favorite people on the planet. And to get to be up here, especially with so many heroes and friends in the room, this means a lot every year. So I never take that for granted. Thanks, Joe. I thought I'd just start by sharing some Genius Network shares from this last year. I want to share 5 quick things that has happened because of the Genius Network in the last year. First, yesterday before Tony got on stage, I was blessed to interview him for about an hour for a new show I have coming out. And in that process, I wasn't disconnected from the fact that I met Tony because of someone in this room. Mike Koenig's, where you at, buddy? Mike, you in the room? Oh, he's getting some coffee? I met Tony because of Mike Koenig's. Then I thought about, what else has happened? Well, this week, I've been kind of gone from my table, sorry, table 22. I've been gone a little bit because I'm doing the final approvals for an Oprah course that we're launching together next week. And so it's all week with her team, just looking at the course, looking at the course, looking at the course. I met Oprah and got that opportunity because I met Arianna Huffington, helped her with their book launch, helped her with their course launch on the Oprah Network, advised them through their courses and through their online marketing. And I got that opportunity because of Peter Diamandis. Is Peter in the room somewhere? Hey, Peter. Thanks, buddy. I think about right now, I get to stand here and hopefully be somewhat articulate as I teach you these 5 points that helped me hit 50 million views in the last 12 months. And I'm able to do that because of Dr. Daniel Amen, who you just saw up here. He treated me in 2011 when I had a brain injury. I'm here because, is Amen in the room? There you are. Dr. Daniel Amen. Would you give him a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? I think about my favorite people in the world, 2 guys who I'm building a whole new empire with. They're Genius Network members. It's Dean Graziosi and Ethan Willis. We bought growth.com together, and we've just been crushing building out that infrastructure, getting that going. I would have never met them if it wasn't for Joe Polish, if it wasn't for Genius Network. Dean Graziosi, and somewhere is Ethan Willis as well. Give those guys a round of applause. Steve Sims, who was just up here, he arranged an amazing trip to Paris for us, where we were like hovering above Paris in helicopters, spinning around the Eiffel Tower, flying out into the countryside, landing at some amazing, beautiful, ridiculous castle where we had this private lunch and dinner at this amazing castle. I mean, the guy can arrange trips like you can't even fathom. And all I said, I want to have an unbelievable, ridiculous lifetime memory in Paris. And they took the rest of it. And we did 4 weeks there, 2 weeks in Bordeaux. One of the greatest experiences of my life because of Steve Sims, because of the Genius Network. So that's my ode to Joe Polish and the entire team. And the last person who also just gets a lot of love and praise, probably someone who doesn't get enough of that in this room, if she's here, is Eunice in the room? Would you guys give Eunice a big round of applause? I don't get to see Eunice and Joe enough, but they're family, and I love them. So thank you guys for being awesome to the team the entire time that you've been here. I got a little bit of time to share 5 big practices that I
I really believe we're the essence of hitting 50 million views. But I'm also going to pick up the conversation from last year. So if you weren't here last year, one of my challenges to the group was this. I said, if you're not spending $1,000 a day on Facebook ads, you have not entered the modern era of marketing, period. And if you haven't started that work, it's time to start that work, because I want to give you the update. Okay, so that's what we do. We do even more than that. But since I stood on this stage last year, we have 4.5 million more followers on Facebook. Since I stood on the stage last year and said that, over $25 million of revenue has come in from just Facebook strategies alone. And so I hope that what I'm sharing with you isn't just conceptual, though some of these few points will be. It's go do this work. You can reach more people than you ever imagined in your entire lifetimes, but now is the time where you step away from your infrastructure, like Peter said yesterday, and you stand in that place of saying, what is happening now, and how can I get on it and ride that to the next level? Because one of the things I heard from a lot of Genius Network members was just like, well, you don't understand, Brenna, I got this infrastructure, so it's hard on me. So get rid of it, start again. Because building infrastructure now is not the problem. That's the easiest part of it now. It's these conversations we keep having in our mind that technology is too hard or marketing is too difficult that's probably keeping you back, even though this is an unbelievable room of incredible marketers. And I'm a student of a lot of people in this room, so I take it seriously when I say this. I don't say it to challenge you. I say it because you have a responsibility to reach more people with what you can do. And that begins by entering the modern era. That begins by entering that era where you're running ads, and you've got to stop looking at ads as spending money, as investment. Every dollar I spend on Facebook, I get $1.87 back within 90 days. So how much would you spend on Facebook? How much you say? If they let me spend $1 million a day, which they won't, if they did, I'd do it right now because my message is that important to me. But I also told this last year, and one thing I kept hearing from a lot of people is, Brendan, I started trying this stuff, and you know, not a lot of people watch my videos. I started putting my stuff out there, and I only got 50 likes. I started doing some of the stuff. I started trying to do a YouTube show like you talked about, and you know, only 100 people watched it. That's going to lead me to my first point today. Maybe more philosophical, then the rest will be pretty tactical. And that's this. Honor and never forget the worth of one. Honor the worth of one. What do I mean by that? You know what people say all the time? Well, Brendan, only 100 people watched that. And I look at this room, and if we jumped off of here right now, and I just continued walking, and I divided it on this side of the room versus this side of the room, these are 100 people over here. And what's happening is people are going, oh, I only got 100 views. Oh, only 50 people saw it. And I'm like, no. This guy's not worth it. That person's not worth it. That person's not worth it. I just talked to a guy, got about 4.5 million new views in the last couple months, and was frustrated with the new initiative that came out. Big YouTube star rolls out this new video, says, Brendan, only 1,000 people watched it. I said, only 1,000 people watched it? I grew up in a town, I don't know where you guys grew up. I grew up with 2,000 people in my town. That'd be half the town. That's a big win. For where I grew up, that's a big win. And I said, look, hey man, I know you're starting something new, and you are all in transition. How many feel like you're in some kind of transition in your career or your life, your business? Look around the room. Everybody here. We're all in some transition because the economy, the world is completely changing. But this person said only 1,000 people saw it, Brendan. And I thought, you know what? In your chase to scale, don't lose your soul. Don't lose the connection with the one person. My shows and my work, if they get effectiveness for any reason, it's because I'm talking to one person and I know that person and I care for that person, and it's not another 50 views, it's not another 1,000 likes. I deeply care about my audience. I listen to them, I watch them, I learn from them, I see what they go out and do. I know their struggles, I know their pain, and that makes the messaging resonate. If you've ever seen Dr. Daniel Amen on public television, he's talking to you. And that's why he's raised those unbelievable amounts of money for them, because he's talking right with you. And that's what you got to do. And a lot of the marketing that is struggling today is because people are trying to be so puffed up, and they're trying to address the masses like they're, some, saint on some big hill or something, instead of remembering that one-to-one conversation. I didn't start with hundreds of people in our seminars and thousands of people in our seminars. I started with 22 people in my seminars. I still talk to my people in my seminar rooms like I got 22 people there. It's not that I have to move the energy around the room now that there's thousands, but it's still 22. I'm still the guy talking to 22 people. So if you looked at your marketing, and if you listen to your team, in talking about scale, have they lost humanity? If you really listen to it, is it about traffic and conversions and numbers, and that's where it lies? Or is there something that is mission-driven, that is heart-driven? Because these 100 people over there, every one of them can go out and change the world dramatically. You have to honor the worth of one. If your marketing is not honoring the worth of one, that's why you're struggling. You see these big corporate email newsletters. You've seen them all, right? There's lots of columns. There's lots of ads in the email newsletter. There's lots of things that people can do and go click over here. Those completely fail today. Completely. Now it's just about working and honoring the value of one. Get back to that. Don't lose your soul in the scale. People look at the numbers we were posting today and they're like, oh my gosh, he must be so different. And I'm doing the same thing I've always done. Everyone's like, what's next for you, Brennan? Same thing. I write books, I do online courses, I do seminars. Then I do a lot of work to fill those things by giving out free education. That's never going to change. Some of the techniques and the tools will change, but I'm still talking to one. So I know this is for some of you like, yeah, you're preaching to the choir, man. But start listening to your teams a little more closely. Start reading your emails a little more closely. Start challenging the people that you work with a little more closely. And if you're the star, if you're the thought leader, you're the person on there, get back into your heart before you're doing those videos, before you're doing those podcasts, because you're probably, I don't know if this is true for everybody, but you might just be in your content or in the thought of the sale more than you are in the heart and the soul of the person you're talking to. And I really believe you can get away with that for a couple 100,000 views. But you can't get 1 million views doing that. You can't get 10 million views, and you can't get 50 million views doing that. We got to feel your heart again. We got to feel your soul again. We got to put you back into this game, because in marketing, our number one problem is how often we focus on the numbers, and we numb out the people we're serving. Because what do we do now? It's so popular to say, oh gosh, my customers are so demanding. Oh my gosh, they're such a pain in the ass. Oh my gosh, all these negative comments. It's taken so much work now. And now your content creation isn't even joy anymore. Some people look at their content creation as the job and the work. I'm like, that's the self-expression and that's the service. If you don't love creating that content, different game, you got to go do something else. You got to get back in love with self-expression. Like expressing your heart and your humanity. And if you don't feel that when you're doing the work, it's okay. You're just never going to break through. You're not going to get that 10 million views. That 10 million views comes from that place. You got to get in there. It's so hard to do, especially for smart people, especially for us in this room. And I feel it too, because as soon as you get that 1 million views, you get guarded a little bit. People say bad things about you. They make judgments about you. They, as you heard Tony and Peter talk about yesterday, you get hooked. And it's easy to stay hooked, but you got to get back into that heart of it again. Everybody in this room, your next level of marketing is just getting back into your heart and making this about self-expression and service more than traffic and conversion. The traffic and conversion will come from that. It's just a big mind shift. It helped me a lot. I hope it helps you too. Second idea. If you could throw up slides, guys. Second idea. Develop a grid. Develop a grid. This is the big breakthrough financially online for me. Very, very simple. I'm going to show you my grid. You might have a different grid. But the grid tells how do people progress through your products and services. Okay, let me give you an example of the grid. This is one of mine. On the left column, you see brand ascension by competency. And on the rest, we're just going up an escalation of price. Now let me teach you how we work this grid in the business, and hopefully this will help you too. All I want you to do on the left-hand side of when you're coming up with your grid is you're just writing down your brands, right? Your product categories, your product names. Now most people, they just create content and brands based on what they got, what's in their asset library, what is it that they know, what is it they have. I've never done that. I'm more of that strategic kind of thinker, I hope, where I go, okay, what's the customer's journey? What's their first aspiration? And what knowledge, skills, abilities, tools, and capabilities would they need to have that first aspiration met? And then I build a huge brand on that. Then I take another couple steps over and say, okay, once they've got that knowledge, skills, aspiration, competency developed, what's the next thing for them? And so on. So for example, in mine, the first aspiration is people might want to share their message with the world, like I got to. So if you don't know my backstory, I'm a personal development guy and a high performance guy, and that's my whole career, that's my whole life. And I started doing good in personal development, and people started saying, how are you doing good in personal development? And I said, well, I'm doing this marketing stuff. And then I became equally known for the marketing stuff, and I started Experts Academy to teach people, thought leaders, how do you get your message out there and monetize it? So that was the beginning. It was like a good start. But once they go through that and they understand the industry, they understand how to do it, another skill they might need is speaking. So I started World's Greatest Speaker Training to train them to speak well on those videos, on those blog posts, on those stages that I recommend. Then they need to master very specific technical things. Really, you know, that minutia of creating a page and monetizing it, that started Total Product Blueprint. And then at some point, if you got all that stuff but you're still not doing it, we have to get you out of your own way, and I bring them into High Performance Academy. So I'm developing my brand assets by the customer's competency journey. Their competency journey. What is it they need to learn, master, and understand? So you think about two lines of growth real fast. Think about one growth is their competency, and the other line that often goes along with it is their aspirations. And so if I jump in your business, can I look at your product categories and say, oh, clearly you're developing for the customer's competencies. If you're not, the major question is, how are you developing your content? That's the major question. If it's not for the customer's competency development, for those thought leaders in the room, then where are you going? If you're not a thought leader and you just run a brick and mortar, okay, you still have a customer and they're still on this journey. Are you developing pillars in your business that strategically accelerate their ascension and success? If not, you're just throwing stuff at the wall, and scaling to the upper levels is going to be incredibly difficult. So then what you do is you say, okay, what if for each of these brands I have 3 offerings, or maybe 4? So each of the brands, like Experts Academy, I have a low tier thing, like a book, then mid-tier online, then higher tier live seminars, and then higher tier from there, mastermind or coaching as an example. Now, I know you know everyone's got that. Everyone knows this idea. Here's the question. Have you set that up to run automatically online with everybody who comes in your funnel ever? Have you set it up so that when they come in, the conversation sounds like that? It's related to their competency and their aspirations. Do they feel that arc in the messaging? Or are you just talking about the stupid video you shot? If that messaging lose that context of their competency and their aspiration, you're just kind of talking in the wind. There's no context. They can't get excited about you. And people I know, you can say, yeah, whatever, Brendan. I did a launch, I did $2 million. Yeah, add those 2 conversations, their competency and their aspirations, and watch it go to 4. That's your job. That messaging needs to be back in there, which we'll talk about. So all I did is for each brand that I've created, brand category within the business, I just created 3 new products for each one. And then the autoresponder sequence is smart, so it knows if they bought one or didn't, and introduces them to the next one for each brand. Then once they've gone through that brand and they bought or they didn't buy, I drop them into that next level of competency regardless. and we just move them through so they're getting an understanding. And that's why we have students around the world who are so committed, because they're always going to know, whatever I can do with Brendan, I'm going to go to another level. So do they see that with you? Does your audience say you're serving a need? Or they're going to go to another level with you? My argument is, if they say you're serving a need and you're solving a problem, you're going to be a commodity in the next 12 months. 3 billion new people coming online as quick as they're going to be coming online the next couple of years. It's like you're going to be a commodity. You won't be able to scale. Your scale comes from you scaling their aspirations and their competency. Raise your hands if you're still with me, or is this too much? Okay? That's where your scale comes from. Now, if your heart is there and you really love your students, all this content gets better. So one of my favorite questions to ask is, if I gave you my email today, how long do you talk to me for automatically? Like today, if I gave you my email, how many autoresponders do you have set up to talk to me? That answer tells me a lot about how much money you're making. Because what a lot of people do is they get the email, and then they just put them in a general news category or a general weekly newsletter or monthly, and then they sell them. But that funnel, in mine, I can't remember, I think it's like 190 weeks or something now. So if you enter my world now, you're going to be with me for a couple years automatically. And that sucked setting up. That sucked. You guys all know this. Creating those emails, the blog posts, the autoresponder sequence, that sucks, but that's the scale. You got to honor that struggle, that process. It's like, that's the work. Your job isn't to create content once in a while. Your job is to go home, stop everything, and say, if we created a strategic sequence of messaging and content for our customers today, not 10 years from now, not whatever I developed, today, what would we create to help them go to the next level? And then you string it all together automatically, that it just happens. And that's how I take 17 weeks off every single year. It's just running. The thing is just running people through the grid. I also have a grid for my personal development side. That's my marketing side, which more of you are familiar with. And that's it. That's it. I'm just taking people through the grid. The reason you do a low cost, mid, and high isn't just because you're going for the ascension of the money. It's because that's where their competency lines often begin. The competency line might begin with the book, and then they go to another level. And some people say, well, this might not apply to me because I've got customers who they're not really interested in developing their competency. They're just buying a quick need. And I go, your job is to find out what is beyond the quick need. What's beyond the quick need, right? The iPhone isn't solving the quick need. We had flip phones for the quick need. They went so far beyond it into lifestyle, and that's important. Then when you have the grid set up, this is where everything changes. Because once I had this, probably got this really in line, I feel like really strong 3-4 years ago, then you run ads at this. You run ads into a funnel where people get a couple great videos from you, and then they're dropped into the grid. And here's the nice thing about a grid. You have something to measure. Each of those boxes you can now measure. A lot of people in their business, they don't have anything to measure, so they're just sending out newsletters. And they're like, Brendan, this stuff doesn't work. I'm like, yeah, but you're not measuring anything. The grid gives you the measurement points with the team to go, how's this doing? This box right here. What's up with it? And then you can move boxes around, you can change things, and it gives a big visual understanding of what you're doing, not only with your team, but frankly yourself. Because how many of you feel disorganized in your business sometimes? I haven't been disorganized in my business for a really long time because that's like the operating plan. Once you got the grid, you know your products and services, all you're doing is driving the traffic into that work. Okay. Master messaging. I think this is the large reason I was very, very blessed to get the call from the Oprah team and then finally meet her, is the messaging of what I say. And this is very, very, very important for you all. This would be the thing if you walked out of here this year and you went and actually implemented these very simple themes. I really believe anyone in this room, with how smart you already are and what you already have set up, you could all double or triple. And that's a big message, but let's test it. So if I jumped into your world and I looked at all your emails, your Facebook, your tweets, your Instagram, could I see you doing these things? Let me break down these acronyms. Okay, first, here's what you're promoting. NIER stands for this: new, I stands for interesting. E stands for effective. And the one everybody forgets, R stands for responsibility. These are your million-dollar message themes. If I'm looking at your continual conversation with your autoresponders, your emails, your videos, and nothing feels new, I'm gone. If you're not trying to say things in interesting ways and sort of explaining things in counterintuitive ways or using metaphor or story to make even a simple commonsensical thing something I wanted to decide to be common practice in my life, not working. If you're not talking about effectiveness and why they need to be effective at what they're doing, but also by what you have and why it is effective or not effective, then you're in trouble. And then responsibility is a big one. Responsibility is the leadership messaging of what you do. Are you asking your audience to lead? I love listening to Peter because he's got this. We got a responsibility to save the planet. We got a responsibility to get man outside the planet. We got a responsibility to 10x our thinking. So how often do you challenge your audience and say, you have a responsibility to do this? You owe it to your family. When's the last time you said that? How many people feel like in the last month or two, you sent something out that literally said, you owe it to your family? Would you raise your hands real quick to get recognized? The big room of marketing. How many people just spotted the problem? You owe it to your community. You owe it to your family. You owe it to yourself. If you're not saying those types of things, you're not imbuing responsibility in your messaging. If you're not imbuing responsibility in your messaging, you're never going to be perceived the market leader in your industry. Great leaders always talk about leadership, not by accident. That's why I studied Robin Sharma. I know he's in this room. He's probably the one guy you guys got to make sure you study a lot of. You got to get in that leadership conversation, not from a hoity-toity, like a big look at me. You got to get there because it serves the world. And that's where I tie that first concept to. Your heart has to be in this. You have to say, look, you guys can change the world, and you owe it to your family to do it. You owe it to your family, you owe it to your team to start doing Facebook messages. As silly as that sounds, it still resonates, because if you're not scaling for your team, you're declining for your team. If you're letting your small business make you small-minded, your mission, your art, your family, it's going to suffer. Another idea, streamline with the end in mind. I didn't know my YouTube show was going to go so big, and all I did, I began with the end in mind. Thank you, Blake Covey. We all miss him. But what I did, I said, look at what everyone's doing. They're doing these podcasts. They're doing these crazy things. They got YouTube shows. They got Facebook things. They were doing so much. How many feel like you're doing so much? Like so much. You're overwhelmed. Okay. 100, 200, 300 liars. Good. You're doing so much. You got to streamline. I saw everyone do all this marketing. I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to sleep. I said, what's the one thing that I could do that would accomplish all the others? So I started doing a weekly video shoot. That weekly video shoot is spliced. The MP3 comes out of it. That MP3 becomes my podcast. The text out of that transcription, that becomes my posts on Facebook and on Instagram. That work from that video, that goes up on Huffington Post, that goes up on my blog, that goes out in my email newsletters. One action triggers and fills the rest. That's streamlining with the end in mind. The end in mind is the customer's competency development. How do they access that? I don't care where they access it. I want to be there. So I'm going to teach to their competency and their aspiration, and then I'm going to proliferate that through every platform that I can. And I know a lot of you build products and programs and services that help people do that, and that's awesome. Keep doing that. Last idea. Prioritize your energy and your art. A lot of people are saying, I'm so tired, I'm so tired, I'm so tired. You don't have energy. You generate energy. Your energy that you feel now has been generated by what you've done the last 48 hours, what you've fed your body and your mind with. Your energetic level is not a victim mentality. You have created it by the way you move, the way you talk, the way that you eat, and it must be your priority. The one thing that helped all of my scale, but not just mine, I'm blessed to work with 10 of the top 50 YouTubers in the world now. Some of these folks have subscriber counts in the tens of millions on YouTube. You know what? Watch their videos. You know what's there? Enthusiasm. Their energy, because they work on that, they train for that, is so heightened, it's so real. You got to watch it. It's exciting. You have to watch it. So what are you putting out that people have to watch? Not because what you say, but because how you communicate it, your passion, your energy, your fire. And last, prioritize your art. You know, if you haven't heard the story, I released the Motivation Manifesto last year, and the publisher originally turned it down. Matter of fact, Simon Schuster had given a $2 million book deal for that. And then when I turned it in, they said, it doesn't make any sense. Why are you writing like 1776? This book is unpublishable. It's unmarketable. We can't do it. Change the tone, change the voice, change the way you wrote it, or we will not publish it. And I just had to look at it, and I had to think, is it true? Is there good feedback there? I ended up fighting for the art, because this to me is self-expression, not counts. It's not number of people. It's the self-expression, the service in the world. Fought for the book, partnered with Hay House. We put it out 30 weeks on the New York Times bestseller, and 2 weeks ago I got to sit down as Oprah held the book, opened up, read the table of contents, asked me questions because she'd read the book, she fell in love with it. That got to happen even though someone turned it down. Someone's been turning you down a long time, and you've been letting it hold you down because you weren't willing to fight for your art energetically. You got to get back into your art of all this. If you want to go to that next level, you already got the techniques and the tools. Everyone's given it to you here. All I can say, get back in the energy of serving again. Connect with that. Really get into it. Don't forget your soul as you scale, and you will find that next level for yourself as marketers and business owners. Thanks, everybody, for your time. I appreciate it. You guys are awesome.
You enroll people into a giant, big cause. Now, it's one thing to think big, grandiose ideas and talk about changing the world. And I think a lot of people use the whole, I've got an idea they'll hear Peter talk about, how can you impact 1 billion people? And so they haven't impacted one, but they want to impact like the whole world. So where do you take it from this big idea to actually creating the team, making sure you have a viable model that works?
Yeah. So essentially, when you have a big vision, never ever get distracted that this is unachievable. What you do is you take each slice of it and you start executing on slice by slice by slice. And next thing you know, you got a whole rainbow fit there. So you don't go out and boil the ocean. You say, what is the minimum viable product that I can launch today, but stay with the mission? But what really happens is people along the way lose sight of what they're trying to do, and they get caught up in what I call short game, making quick money. And I can tell you that when I launched Wyome, the quickest money was we got calls from every doctor and hospital. She said, we love what you're doing. We would love to order a lab test from you for Wyome. And we told them, we just don't do that. We're going to give you money and say, we do not do that. We want the consumer to become empowered. We want them to have the information of what they can do. Even to date, we get calls from the doctor. I can get hundreds of people signed up tomorrow, but I want to get the data, not the consumer. I will tell the consumer what they need. And by the way, when you order your blood report, the doctor says, I can't give it to you. It's your blood report. They don't want to share it with you. Imagine that. So one thing we made a decision was we will never, ever compromise what we stand for. We will never, ever let anyone get between us and the consumer who is actually buying it. We will always give them the information. We will always give them the recommendation. And what we allow is allow them to share. And you say, share it with my doctor, my spouse, my kids, anyone you want. But at the end of the day, each consumer is going to become the CEO of their own health. Because once you empower someone, you will always get it right? But the point is, we could have been distracted for a short-term money. My team thought I was crazy. Why won't I take the money? Pharmaceutical companies, We want you to be part of our drug trial, but we can't give you data. We won't let you know who the consumer is. I said, my job is to kill the pharmaceutical companies. If you have the same goal, come join me.
Do you think perhaps you could maybe have a better chance of accomplishing this if you had more enthusiasm?
Yeah. Interestingly, I am still learning from Peter. Right? I mean, honestly, it's not something you create. It's not something you become. It has to come from your heart. If you don't believe in something that you're willing to die for, you can never be enthusiastic about it. And that's one problem a lot of people have. They sell things they know they don't believe in. They say, how can I build the quickest amount of time I can build in trust in someone so they will buy my product? Those are the short game. You want to play the game like Tony mentioned. Fall in love with your customer, not with your product. Do what it takes to make sure the person who is buying it is going to be thrilled and be delighted, as Jeff Bezos will say. To me, if you look at, there is a reason why Jeff has become the richest man in the world making no profit. Yeah. Right? Right? Because everyone who has bought things from Amazon will know there is nothing when you say to Amazon, you bought a product, even if it's your mistake, you tell them, I don't want this. They don't say, you bought it, it's yours to keep. They say, please send it back, and you can keep the product, we'll refund the money. Right? That is actually taking care of your customer. They play the long game. And that is what everyone in the room, the reason you get stuck at $1 million or $10 million or $100 million is because you play the short game. Believe what is possible. Think about what your moonshot is. Imagine. So that is the most beautiful word that I learned in the English language. If you just tell someone, imagine, for that second, they are willing to open to any idea. I can say, imagine a world where whatever that is you're doing, at that point, people are open to every possibility. So don't focus on what the world is. Focus on what you want the world to be. Don't focus on, is the glass half empty or half full? Focus on, do I want to fill this glass or not? Is this glass even worth filling? Because if it's worth filling, does it matter it's half empty or half full? And if you don't want to fill the glass, does it really matter it's half empty or half full, right? The thing is, whether it's your customer, whether it's your children, whether it is your employees, you as a leader or you as a father or mother never have to take them to the water or make them drink. Your job is to make them thirsty. If you make someone thirsty, they will find the water for the rest of their life and they will drink. What is that thirst? It's called intellectual curiosity. Once you can create the intellectual curiosity in people, in your children, amazing things happen. They will go out and rest of their life will be quenching their thirst to do something meaningful. The success is never going to be about how much money you have in the bank. Success is going to be defined by how many lives have you positively impacted. I tell our children, who just, by the way, I'm going to brag about them in a second, but amazing children. When they were, I grew up in a poor family. It was easy to have that hunger. How do you raise children that grew up in an affluent family? And I told them when they were young, your success will never be measured by how much you own. It will be measured by what you create. And if you own a lot and you haven't created anything, you're still a piece of shit as far as the society is concerned. Right? And you don't want to be that worthless piece of shit.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video, and I want to let you know that I have a new book that's come out, and if you'd like to get it absolutely free, there's a link below in the description, or you can wait till the end of this video, or you can simply go to joesfreebook.com and you can get a copy there.
Success, the way you know, the day you know you're successful is really easy to know when you actually become successful. The day you become humble is the day you become successful. If you still have an iota of arrogance left in you, then you're still trying to prove something to someone or yourself. You're still not successful, right? The interesting thing that I find, Joe, is that technology, for the first time in our life, is making possible for you and I and a small group of people to do things that could only be done by nation states. And I believe the entrepreneurs are going to be the next superpower. It is, imagine, when we land on the moon as a company, not only we become the first private company to do so, and just in case anyone is wondering, we are the only company in the universe that has permission to leave Earth orbit and land on the moon. The reason we believe the entrepreneurs are going to be the superpower is they are starting to solve the problems that we believed only the nation states could do. Going to space, healthcare. Healthcare is not going to be solved by Trump care, Obamacare, is going to be solved by someone in this room saying, enough is enough. I cannot take it anymore, and we're going to fix it. And imagine education. I was going to look at both healthcare and education, and I picked healthcare. And the problem in education are identical. Same problems. And I can tell you exactly what needs to be done. And I hope one of you in this room goes and fixes it. Because if you fix education, instead of my going to do that next, I'll go create abundance of food, abundance of land, the abundance of energy, all the problems that we need to solve. Education. What's the problem with education? Our education system was designed to teach you skills. Imagine what's happening. In the world of exponential technologies, skills are becoming obsolete every 5 to 7 years. By the time you graduate, your skill is no longer needed. Think about that for a second. What do you get? You get chronic unemployment. The skills are becoming obsolete. Our education system was designed to create these people with the skills so you can be employed rest of your life. Now you have to create an education system, learning to learn, learning to solve problems, learning to work together. Today in education system, when you work together, you know what we call them? Cheating. When we do the same thing in a company, you're a team player. Imagine that. Right? So imagine, what if you can create an education system that's adaptive, that is personalized, that is gamified, that is based on the neural feedback of how you learn, and your education system gets adapted to how you learn rather than you adapting to how teacher teaches. All that can happen. And imagine if you can solve education, you can create abundance of energy, abundance of water, abundance of land. We can bring world peace. Think about that. What do people fight over? They fight over land, they fight over water, they fight over energy. All we have to do is look up. Where is the scarcity? We are living in a tiny pale blue dot in our own galaxy. And there are billions of galaxies in this universe, and there could be billions of universes in this multiverse. Where is the problem? Look at the energy. There is nothing but energy. There is nothing but water. It's in our mindset of it's not possible. People say, how can you live on the moon? Don't you know there is a tremendous amount of radiation on the moon? And I said, yeah, but that's another opportunity for us to solve that problem. Nature has already solved that problem. We find the bacteria growing in the radioactive nuclear waste. So nature has figured out not only how to protect its DNA from the radiation, it has figured out how to use the radiation as a source of energy. So imagine when you are on the moon, as opposed to eating pizza, we will be going out and eating radiation. Honey, do you want to go out and get some radiation? So all we have to do is take the genes from the bacteria, use CRISPR, which is a genetic editing technology, and use the gene editing to modify our own human genes so we are completely protected from radiation. Just one of the many things you can do, right? The idea is every time you see a problem, don't think of it as a problem. Think of it as an opportunity. The bigger the problem, bigger the opportunity. So every speed bump, don't say, God damn it. You say, aha, there is another business opportunity. And the only thing you have to remember, as an entrepreneur, you only die from indigestion rather than starvation. That means don't do too many things at the same time. Do few things, but do them really, really well. So do things that you actually are good at, focus on them, and if you see a bigger opportunity, let go of this one. You got to let the good things fall apart for better things to come together. So if you are really think your marriage is, your relationship is good, but not excellent, let go of the good thing to find something better.
No, that's great advice.
Okay, I hope you found that video awesome and useful. So if you want to get a free copy of my book, I want you to click here. And if you want to watch some more videos that'll be useful and awesome, click here. Go ahead. They're over here. Do it now. Come on. Thank you. Watch them.